All right, I call to order the regular meeting of the Lake Forest City Council, December 16th, 2014. Let the record state all members are present and accounted for. We're going to open up tonight with an invocation, which will be led by Bishop Eric Smith from the Lake Forest Ward of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So thank you for being here, Mr. Smith.
Heavenly Father, we're grateful for this opportunity we have to gather for this important meeting, and ask for thy blessings to be upon all those who will speak, that we may be able to speak kindly with one another, but express our opinions. We are grateful for this time of season when we can celebrate with family and friends and enjoy this wonderful season together and reflect on Thee and Thy Son, Jesus Christ. We're also grateful for the many freedoms which we enjoy here in this country and all of those who are serving throughout the world to protect those freedoms. And we ask Thee to bless those who are away from their families, that they will feel of Thy love and feel of our love for them, and grateful for their service. Again, we ask for Thy blessings upon this meeting, that good choices will be made in accordance with Thy will. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. All right, and tonight the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Councilmember Gardner.
If I could make a friendly suggestion, tradition. There's some Boy Scouts. If I could maybe. No, you. Like, no.
Okay, so sounds like there's some Scouts in the audience. So since there's some discussion among my council members, why don't you come up to the mic, tell us what troop you're with, and you can lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
We're with Troop 1210, and we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. So audience, please rise. Those in uniform, please salute the flag, and those not, please place your right hand over your heart. Now please recite with me the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Councilmember Gardner, for deferring to our Scouts in uniform. So thank you very much. I don't think that's the case. Mr. City Attorney, was there anything to report out of closed session tonight?
Yes, Mayor and Council. I want to report that the Council unanimously voted to approve settlement of a potential case in a nuisance abatement action. The motion to take that action was made by Councilmember Voights, seconded by Councilmember Hamilton, and passed unanimously.
Great. Thank you very much. And at that time, we have a variety of presentations. Can we work this into all one motion? Okay. So it's items 3 through 6, so I'll entertain a motion on those items.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second on the presentations, items 3 through 6. Council members, cast your votes. That passes unanimously.
Agenda Item 3, Employee Service Awards, submitted by Deputy City Manager, Director of Management Services.
I assume, do you want me to join you down there?
Yes, Mayor and members of the City Council. Tonight we have 9 employees here to recognize as part of our Employee Service Awards. So I will be joining the Mayor at the podium to bring them up, and these awards are based on years of service. Okay, we're going to start with our 5-year award winners. And we're going to start with our Administrative Services Manager, Hannah Shin-Hadorn. Okay, next is our Engineering Services Manager, Angel Fuertes. And next is our City Clerk, Stephanie Smith. Okay, the next group of employees have served Lake Forest for 10 years, and we are going to start with our water quality manager, Devin Slavin. Next is our senior building technician, Randy Fiore. And next is our senior office specialist, Joni Den. And it's with great regret to let you know that Joni is retiring next week. Yes, 7 days. But she's still giving us great service in the meantime. Yeah, it's not over yet. Okay, then we have our administrative specialist in economic development, Phyllis Williams. Okay, and tonight we also have our 15-year award winner, and that is recreation manager, Rob Gaylord. Okay, Mayor, if you'd like to join us, we will take a picture.
Yay, Rob.
So as they're all taking their seats, I mean, I just want to say how much I really appreciate the staff that we have here at the City of Lake Forest. And we have a very lean staff. They all work incredibly hard. And so I just want to thank you for your years of service, each and every one of you. Those even that aren't celebrating your 5 and 0 anniversaries, but we're just very thankful for the staff that we have. I know that the entire council feels that way. So thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, before the next agenda item, we're actually having just a slight bit of camera difficulty, and the technician is here, and he'd like to readjust the camera for just a second.
Great.
If you wanted to take just a very brief recess.
Okay, sure. We'll take a very brief one. So.
Thank you.
Jim.
Not every day that your job waits for the camera to be adjusted.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm feeling very Hollywood right now. So,
Do you think I have time for a quick trip?
depending on how quick, yeah, I think it's probably just a couple minutes.
All right. Okay, I gotta make a quick trip.
Bad time to go potty.
I don't know, Stephanie, for like 5 minutes or something?
He just has to get into a cabinet and just flip it real quick.
Yeah. Okay. Once they're ready, I'll have Adam sing the national anthem.
Wow.
All right, we're going to reconvene from our brief recess here. Our technicians are trying to get the cameras to point in the right direction for those groupies who may be trying to catch a glimpse of Mayor Pro Tem Adam Nick here. Just kidding. But typically the camera's pointed towards the podium for public comment and viewing the city council. But right now it's pointing towards the audience, so make sure that your hair's brushed and all those sorts of things. And they're working to correct that right now. So we just awarded 5 and 10 year anniversaries, and now we've got some presentations on a couple of new employees. So.
Agenda item 4, introduction of new employee, David Rogers, PETE, Public Works Maintenance Manager, submitted by Director of Public Works, City Engineer.
Good evening, Council. Thank you. I'd like to introduce actually 2 new employees, so Christine can make her way up too. So you don't feel too out of place there. But Dave Rogers comes to us from the City of Laguna Niguel. Was the last place of employment, but he's got 30 years in the industry. He's what's known as a double ticket in the industry. He's both a professional engineer and a registered traffic engineer. So we'll take full advantage of those capabilities. And please welcome Dave Rogers. He'll be in charge of our maintenance division within Public Works and taking care of the parks, streets, roads, everything really that we maintain. So that's David.
I just want to say I appreciate the opportunity and look forward to serving the residents and council of Lake Forest, which includes my parents, who have been 20-plus year residents here. So now they're going to be calling me about Bay Find, and I'm sure they've got my direct line. So now I'm in trouble.
Absolutely.
Then I'd also like to introduce Christine Groves, who's the management analyst here at the city. So she's been an official employee here for a few months now. But she was here on a temporary basis before, and previous to that, she was here for 2 years up in management services. So welcome her back, please. She brings a lot of talent to the department, and I'm really glad to have them both here.
Absolutely.
I'm also very happy to be here, and as a resident, I'm happy to serve my neighbors.
Great.
Thank you.
Well, welcome back, and we're glad to see some additions to the Public Works team, and we know that you'll do good work in 2015.
Agenda item 6, presentation of Turning Red Tape into Red Carpet Award from the Orange County Business Council for the city's GROW program, Growing and Retaining Our Workforce, submitted by the Assistant City Manager.
Good evening, Mayor Robinson, members of the council. My name is Matt Petaruto, and I serve as the Vice President of Economic Development for the Orange County Business Council. And I'm here to present the city's Turning Red Tape into Red Carpet Award. Just tell you a little bit about the program. We just finished our 4th year of having it, and it's really designed to honor those public agencies in Orange County that are creating pro-business policies, initiatives that help cut through the red tape and roll out the red carpet for businesses in your community, in the county, helping with economic growth. It's very competitive every year. We receive north of 30-plus applications. This year, under the Business Retention Expansion category, the committee looked at a variety of nominations, and the City of Lake Forest GROW program really stood out. It's part of the symbolic nature, I think, of Lake Forest, is known as one of the most business-friendly cities in all of Orange County, and it's programs like this that I think help contribute to that reputation. And so on behalf of the Business Council, I'm honored to be here tonight to present you with your award.
Great. Bob, come down there. First of all, I just want to say thank you very much, and we did get a chance to actually receive this award at your dinner award banquet just a few weeks ago, and it was such a distinct pleasure. Economic development is probably one of the most important things for me. It's the thing I'm most passionate about. I talk about quite a bit, and we've got a lot of great businesses here in town. We have a fantastic economic development staff as well that's led by our Assistant City Manager, Dave Belmer, and then on a day-to-day responsibility level by our Economic Development Manager, Jessica Gonzalez. So I wanted to make sure that Jessica could also receive this award at the same time. So thank you very much, and we're very proud that to have Orange County Business Council recognizing us. So thank you very much. So, all right, thank you.
And our next item is under City Council ceremonial items. Agenda Item 7, Resolution Commending the Mayor, submitted by City Clerk.
Okay, and do we need any motion on this as well? Okay.
Yes.
And both 7 and 8 together? Okay, so
I'd like to move 7 and 8, please.
And I'll second.
there's a motion and a second. Seeing no further discussion, council members, cast your votes. Item passes unanimously, so. All right.
Madam Clerk, with your permission, there is something, a nice certificate that's been prepared for me to have the honor of presenting to Mayor Robinson. It briefly reflects the accomplishments we had back in this past year in 2014, all of which have been under his outstanding leadership. And would you like us to go to the podium, or would you like? Sure, let's go to the podium. It is my distinct honor to present you, Mayor Robinson, with this certificate on behalf of all those who call Lake Forest home, those who have businesses in Lake Forest, and on behalf of the staff and our peers on the dais. I thank you very much for the superb job on behalf of all those mentioned. You've been a good friend, a good leader, a good mentor. I look to your leadership for years to come and to our friendship. Thank you. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
And Agenda Item 8, comments by outgoing mayor, submitted by City Clerk.
Great. Well, I'm going to try to keep it somewhat brief, but at the same time, there's just a lot of people that I'd like to thank, and so. It's been one heck of a year, and it's been my distinct pleasure to serve as mayor for 2014. First and foremost, I'd like to thank my wife Holly and my kids, Corinne, Luke, and Micah, for sacrificing their time with me so that I could serve our community. I figure I spent about an extra 10 hours per week, or about 500 hours throughout the year, beyond what I spent in my initial year as a council member. So my kids are looking forward to more daddy time, and I'm looking forward to it too. I'd like to thank our staff for making me look good, because really this is a really nice resolution talking about a lot of great things that were accomplished this year, but I played a very small role in this. This is a part-time job. They're the ones that are doing this full-time. So I'd like to thank our city attorney for keeping me on the straight and narrow. To our city manager, Bob Dunnick, you continue to do a superb job as the chief administrator of our great city. And I appreciate all the time that you've put in to make the city such a great place. To Stephanie Smith, our city clerk, you do a wonderful job in helping me prepare for council meetings and stay on task. And to Martha Halverson, our former assistant city clerk, she had the challenging task of keeping me up to speed on requests and scheduling and the like, and I'm extremely grateful for her attention to detail, and I'm glad that I get to continue to work with her now that she's the assistant clerk at Orange County Fire Authority. One of the many things I learned from my parents was that when you depart from a friend's house, a job, or an organization, make sure that place is in better condition than when you arrived. And I hope that I've done that here in Lake Forest this year. This year we've accomplished many things. We did this as a team. The team consisted of our former council members, Dave Bass, who I see in the audience, and Catherine McCullough, council member Scott Voights, Mayor Pro Tem Adam Nick, and our new council members, Andrew Hamilton and Jim Gardner. Thank you for the role that each of you play in helping me make Lake Forest a better place. And I couldn't have done it without each one of you, even the two new ones in the last month or so. Just to highlight some of the things I'm proud of. First, it's, as I just mentioned, it's been a passion of mine to work on business attraction, education, and retention with our economic development team. And so, again, just thanks to Assistant City Manager Belmer, our economic development manager, Jessica Gonzalez, and her team, Amanda and Adrian. It's just been such a pleasure to work with them throughout the year. This year, we welcomed 110 new businesses to town. I attended many of those ribbon cuttings and continue to be impressed with the quality of businesses and business owners we have in our great city. I don't know if you all know, you've probably heard me mention it, but right now we have a 3.5% unemployment level here in town. It's incredibly impressive, and that's a testament not only to the staff that we have here that's focused on things like our GROW program, but it's a testament to the businesses and the business owners we have here in town that make Lake Forest such a great place to do business. They're out there creating jobs, and so I just feel very, very blessed to have such great businesses here in town and great residents who are clearly employable. They're doing a great job getting out there and producing for our economy. So beyond that, I would like to also thank our Chamber of Commerce, working with them on a number of these ribbon cuttings, working with them on a number of seminars that we've been able to put on here in town. Those included things like social media marketing, helping businesses on how to use social media to create jobs and help grow their business. Things like an exporting seminar and also a foreign trade zone seminar that we did here in town. Each one of these things are not just to bring people in and help educate them, but they're to actually help these businesses in town grow and create jobs. That's what I've been so excited about. And one of the highlights of those seminars was sitting next to the COO of a major surf brand that most of you would know, who are very interested in moving a warehouse and office from Canada into Lake Forest after sitting through one of our seminars. And so I've been able to stay in touch with them over the last few months, and that's the kind of stuff that I really enjoy and I'm passionate about. Transparency and communication with residents has also been as much an issue for me as it has been for other members of the City Council, and thanks to our Deputy City Manager Deborah Rose and her staff for helping us get more information online for the implementation of InterGov and continuing to develop that, which I know will change the way residents interact with the city and for the better, for sure. You might not always be doing the most glamorous thing, but it has a lasting impact that makes Lake Forest a better place, so thank you for that. I was honored to kick off the year at a grand opening of Baker Ranch, and what a beautiful community that is, and I'm sure it will bring amazing residents who are engaged and eager to weave into the fabric of Lake Forest. Just this past week, I had the pleasure of cutting the ribbon at Avalon Bay apartment homes. And for some of you, when you hear the word apartment, a lot of people, there's just a negative connotation associated with that. But I'll tell you, these new apartment homes are absolutely gorgeous. And a one-bedroom starts at $1,700, a three-bedroom starts at $3,100. So we're not talking about, you know, your run-of-the-mill apartment complexes. We're talking about apartment homes where, as I mentioned right before cutting the ribbon, you might want to sell your single-family home to move into this community. It's that nice. So when you hear the word apartments, you're hearing some really high-quality stuff right now. And so with all of that, the Planning Commission's just done a great job. So I just want to thank Jerry Verplank, Tom Ludden, Jolene Fuentes, and Charles Brower, and then our former commissioner and now council member, Andrew Hamilton, for your leadership, working with the Development Services staff. Just last week when I was at Avalon Bay, they were just talking about what an easy process it was working with the Development Services staff. And so from the building inspectors to the planners, they just do a fantastic job. Gail, you do an amazing job leading that group. And so just want to thank you and just make sure that I express what I'm hearing out in the community. One of the primary responsibilities of city government is roads. And we just met a returning and a new member of our Public Works Department, but they do so much more than just maintaining the quality of our roads. But, as I drive around, and I think I've mentioned this to Mr. Wheeler, the quality of roads, even in South Orange County, isn't nearly as good as it is in Lake Forest. We talked a little bit about the Pavement Management Index and the number we're at, and I'm just constantly impressed by not only how well we try to maintain roads, but the process that we go through to make that happen. And if you ever have a little bit of time, I'm sure Mr. Wheeler would be happy to talk to you about the 7, 7, and 21 plan of how we make sure that our roads are in great condition. So, Mr. Wheeler, thank you very much for your stewardship in our Public Works Department. Lake Forest is also fiscally sound. We're a fiscally conservative city. We're a business-friendly city, as was mentioned earlier. Our general fund, once again, has a surplus, and it has a surplus just about every year. We make sure that we have a balanced budget every year, and we continue to put our money in reserves, and we have managed our capital project budget extremely well, delivering incredible new projects while staying within budget. Thanks to our Director of Finance, Keith Neves, for helping keep our spending in check and ensuring future mayors and councils will benefit from today's planning and not be stuck holding the bag like so many cities do to their future mayors and councils. So thank you for that. What are those great projects that I was just talking about that we were able to deliver to the community this year? And again, I just played a tiny, tiny role. Mayors and councils before me really laid the groundwork to make this happen, but well, you all know that we have this amazing new sports park. The place is incredible. I'm over there all the time. It's 86 acres. We've got baseball fields, softball fields, soccer fields, a basketball gym, a huge recreation center. This park is the largest and truly second to none in South Orange County. We were able to build this park without any debt, and it was paid for primarily through developer fees, not tax dollars. As equally notable, we cut the ribbon at Baker Ranch Community Park, which is a beautiful park, that little tube slide I keep hearing about all around town, just incredible. And it's on such a captivating piece of property. It's just an amazing, majestic view up there, panoramic views of the entire Saddleback Valley into to Back Bay and Newport and all those things. It's just a fantastic view. We completed the renovations of Tamarisk and Rimgate Parks, as well as continue to enhance the recreational opportunities for our residents. And thank you to our former Community Services Director. It's a vacant seat sitting there, and I know that we'll fill it soon, but it's going to be really hard to fill those shoes that Gary McGill filled here for so long. But I thank him, his staff, our entire Park and Recs Commission, Commissioner Herron. I see Commissioner Workmeister, Commissioner Schur, Commissioner Manning, and then the chairman of our commission, Mr. Rosenberg, for all your hard work. Thank you guys for all of that. Speaking of Jim Rosenberg, it was a pleasure to join with him for the adoption ceremony earlier this year as we brought the United States Marine Corps 1st Law Enforcement Battalion into the Lake Forest family. And thanks to you and your committee members for your continued efforts in support of those who spend every day protecting us and protecting our great nation. It was a pleasure going to that Marine Ball with you and your wife down in San Diego County, and just interacting with those young men and women who are just doing amazing things for us. It truly brings a tear to my eye sometimes when I think of how young some of those men and women are, and the great things that they're doing to protect this nation. So thank you to you and your committee for everything that you're doing. It's such a blessing to have your organization here in town, and I hope that it just continues to flourish. Speaking of those who protect us, I would be remiss if I didn't thank Police Chief Valentine and our Fire Chief Bryce, and I know the Orange County Fire Authority. You guys are just doing an amazing job. We live in an extremely safe community, and that's because of both of you and your deputies and firefighters that work underneath you. We're really excited about this Southeast Operations Division headquarters that's coming into town. We've talked about it so much, but we're all very excited about that. And so just thanks to everyone who played a leadership role in making that happen. I know that there were people in the city staff, and then with the Sheriff's Department, and then we played our little role in passing a resolution or whatever it was to try to help make that come into town more swiftly. But just want to extend my thanks to both of your organizations. And on the Fire Authority side, it's been a pleasure just the last couple of months being able to serve in former Councilmember McCullough's absence on the Fire Authority. And I actually got to play a role in voting to hire the new fire chief, Chief Bowman. I think he's a really respectable man who's going to do a fantastic job, a great leader, and I'm really looking forward to what's going to come from his leadership. But most importantly, I just want to thank you for the quick and rapid response you had to that fire on Kenyatta. I had the opportunity, I don't think I've shared this before, but I had the opportunity to take a look at the burn area that evening and talk to a couple of residents who were in the apartment complex directly adjacent to the fire. They were probably the closest, and they were the two units on the end, and they couldn't stop singing the praises of the Fire Authority and how quickly you all responded. They were convinced that they were going to lose their apartment. Absolutely convinced, and it was just they were so thankful. So I even got a video of the whole thing. So, but it was just great. So, finally, I'd like to challenge my colleagues to continue to look at things that we can streamline. As we come into office, we always have a lot of great, grandiose plans that we want to focus on. But I think equally as important as new things that we want to do, looking for ways that we can streamline things that we're already doing, looking for ways that we can do things more efficiently and more cost effectively, and looking for things that are no longer necessary. Maybe an old council wanted to do them, maybe I wanted to do them, but you all think that it's better for us to go in a different direction right now. Look at things that we should cut just as much as things that we might want to create. Let's continue to be fiscally responsible, continue to be transparent, and continue to make Lake Forest an even better place to live, work, and play. Thank you to the residents for giving me this opportunity to serve you. I'm honored and humbled by the opportunity and the responsibility. Although we don't always agree on every issue, I'll always do my best to serve you with honor and integrity. And I thank you very much. So sorry that it was a long one, but just wanted to get that off my chest here in my last meeting while I still have control of it. And with that, do we know if our student liaison's here tonight?
I don't believe he's in the audience.
Okay. So that brings us to the public comments portion of the agenda. At this time, members of the public may address the City Council regarding any items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. No action may be taken on items not listed on the agenda unless authorized by law. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person, and overall time limit of 30 minutes for the public comments portion of the agenda. Any person wishing to address the City Council on any matter, whether or not it appears on the agenda, is requested to complete a request to speak form available under the exit sign over there. The completed form is to be submitted to the City Clerk prior to an individual being heard by the City Council. Whenever possible, lengthy testimony should be presented to the City Council in writing with 8 copies, and only pertinent points are presented orally. And with that, do we have any public comments for the evening?
Yes, Marcia Rudolph, followed by Gregory Sprague.
And I know you're both veterans, but when you come to the mic, if you just state your name and the city that you live in.
Marcia Rudolph, former mayor, City of Lake Forest. I have 2 things here. I'm asking for input from the City Council as to which one of these you like. Vector control has been, what should we say, ruminating over a possible change in the verbiage of the plaque that we have, and we're going to be voting on it on Thursday, and I thought, let you guys give your input on it as to which you like. So I'm going to hand this out, and if you just maybe initial it or whatever, so that I can go on Thursday and say, you know, this council in Lake Forest likes this particular one. And second, at this time of the year, I always talk about a former officer for the Sheriff's Department that fell in the line of duty. And our city wasn't even a year old when Officer Darren Robbins went down. it was Christmas Day, and it was kind of sad and very difficult. And I will say one thing, the citizens in Lake Forest rallied around the city when they heard about it, and there were people who gave their appreciation for his service because he was on the line of duty. He went down. So I need to, every year when we get to this point, bring it up. I think the major lesson is that sometimes we take for granted the officers that service us, and it's something that we dare not take for granted, because the minute we decide that, it's no biggie, that's when we're going to be in need of having those officers here, and it's important that we remember the ones that have served and went down in the line of duty, as well as thanking the officers that are currently here with a little, stay safe as they leave for the day. So anyway, Officer Darren Robbins is the one I was trying to have us remember. There have actually been 4 and 5 in the city of Lake Forest, and I try to kind of bring them up when the anniversary of their death comes up. So anyway, blessings to the family of Darren Robbins. God bless everybody at Christmas time, and I appreciate your input on the vector control, and I will let you know what happens for the whole thing, because there are going to be 25 people who will be, giving their input, so we'll see what they end up doing. Anyway, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and thank you.
You too. Thank you.
Just briefly, Mr. Mayor, I'm wondering, Mrs. Rudolph always brings these up, and I appreciate that she brings these remembrances up. I'm wondering if we couldn't memorialize this somehow in the website on a page in which we took all these, maybe had a page of fallen heroes or something, so memorialize it a little more formally.
Okay.
Welcome. Thank them.
Yes.
Mayor, to act on that, you'd have to have the council approve it as a future action.
Yeah. So I think we could talk about, maybe in your council comments, if you want to
And then
agendize that.
we'll get a second and bring it back.
Yeah. Great. Thank you very much.
Gregory Sprague, followed by Vincent Burke.
Good evening, council members. As you all know me, I'm a resident for 28 years, and my subject tonight is police imposters, which I have one. But this morning I drove up to Orange, 4000 Metropolitan Drive, Suite 200, and spoke with the FBI about this incident that I'm trying to get through some hard heads. They just shook their head. They read the reports. For a crime to be committed, all the elements must be satisfied. He read it. He said, "What's the problem?" We won't comment on that. But he says, no, there's grounds to sign a complaint there. But I want to thank you, who I think spoke to the chief about getting me this report. But they forgot the one page, the one I want, of the pictures. So maybe you could look for that. So then we're going to go into this officer. His name is Lashober. He calls himself investigator. That is a total misrepresentation. In Chicago, we call them detectives, but when you give him a new badge, Chief, put defective on it. He is just... So we go into the report, which I have here. The offender says, as I approached from Toledo to pull in the drive at the clubhouse, It's 75 feet. I went over there, counted those squares. There's 35 squares at 11 feet apiece. That's 385. That could be normal. So then he gets in there and he says, the speed limit on Lake Forest, 50 miles an hour. Who cares? How is that relevant? You're supposed to be writing a report of an offense, not the speed limit, not the distance. So then he goes in and he says, this one almost made me throw up. He says, as he pulled in, he saw me walking rapidly to my car, another lie. I'm 84. I'm not going to be walking rapidly for anybody. So I have to walk to my car, get in with my fob, start the car, put a seatbelt on. I could have pushed my car beyond where I was parked. He was never north of me. He was always south. So he comes up. We're both stopped looking at each other. Beep, beep. I go, here's the crime. He jumps out of his car, comes back, rips my door open, reaches in and grabs me. And get this one. The officer says to him last over, well, what do you say? I can't even tell it with a straight face. Would you please back up? This guy would never use the word please. I don't think he can spell it. But the chief, when he called me, he was very professional. I couldn't believe he was so nice. Personally, I think he'd like to shoot me, but he doesn't want to give up his pension. So now, as far as lying, I just have one little comment on lying. Everybody lies. I know it. I've had nuns lie to me. But, we lie to our children, we lie to our spouses, we lie to our neighbors. But the two best examples are Richard Nixon and Bill Clinton. So now, I'm closing. I'm going to have this remark, what you may not appreciate. The last perfect person, they nailed to a cross. Thank you.
Thank you.
Vincent Burke, followed by Adria Lewis.
Good evening, Vincent Burke, Lake Forest. I'm just going to read a brief passage, a passage from a speech given here at the last meeting, December 2nd. Quote, the third lesson from my journey is that nothing's impossible without the help of your friends. Let's face it, I wasn't elected because of my good looks or my gracious personality, so those didn't get me here. It was through the help of dozens, literally dozens of people, and I want to pause now to recognize their achievement because, quite frankly, I'm here because of them. My victory is their victory, and it's them I'll represent because I could never have done this myself. So if you're here and you don't mind standing up, I'd like you to come up here and share this moment with me. 9 people stood up and came up here to the lectern. My victory is their victory, and it's them, not my emphasis, the speaker's emphasis, I'll represent because I could never have done this myself. And it's them I'll represent. It's them I'll represent. I think I make my point here. I could ask, perhaps the next mayor could request the staff conduct a poll of the new council and ask all of them, who are you going to be representing as a council member? It's real easy to stand up here and fling arrows in your direction toward the dais. I just hope that new members, that you are as equally comfortable with accepting those arrows as you were with flinging them. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Adria Lewis, followed by Doug Waters.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Adria Lewis. I'm a longtime resident of Lake Forest. I have some complaints. I hate to bring down the mood, but I feel that the police system needs to change. I have 3 internal complaint forms here, 3, that I brought against the Lake Forest substation, and I feel the complaints go nowhere due to the uneducated vibe that I get from them. There's 2 ways that I feel that the police system needs to change. One is when citizens call the non-emergency line or even the emergency line, citizens should have the option of choosing to have either the uneducated, useless, scamming buffoons, which are the police, show up at their house, or someone else that should show up that's more qualified and has a brain. An example would be a social worker, counselor, or an educated individual paid by government with a degree to start helping people instead to solve situations and issues. Citizens should have more options when it comes to dealing with the government and who comes to their houses. The Lake Forest Police Department consistently fails with my situation, and they are poorly trained and useless. Please consider my proposal to give citizens the option of having a paid, qualified social worker, counselor to come to people's houses instead of sheriffs that are not qualified for anything other than to attempt to turn citizens into so-called alleged criminals. My second complaint has to do with verbal abuse in the police system. Verbally abusing citizens in front of their own house and verbally abusing them in jail and abusing them in front of people that they know well should be a violation. Embarrassing people in front of people's families should be a violation. Verbal abuse shouldn't be tolerated among citizens. I feel citizens should have a violation code against police to prevent further trauma. Basically, I feel that my perspective should shed some light on the police. Thank you.
Thank you.
Doug Waters.
Good evening. My voice is hoarse tonight, so I'll try to speak up. My name is Doug Waters. Exactly 4 weeks ago, on November 18th, I spoke in front of this council on behalf of a group called Save Portola Hills. Save Portola Hills is a growing group of local residents dedicated to reducing the scope of the harmful and ill-conceived Portola Center project, which continues the current pattern of urban sprawl in Lake Forest and beyond. We hope to preserve the quality of life for residents of Lake Forest and others close cities. Now, it should be noted that I have not spoken to the council since Councilmen Gardner and Hamilton took office. Thus, these next comments apply only to the remaining members. During that meeting 4 weeks ago, I asked if any council members would be willing to sign a letter addressed to Baldwin Builders, the developer of Portola Center. The letter cordially requests a new dialogue regarding the project. The goal of the dialogue is to explore other alternatives that less negatively impact our quality of life than the complete development of Portola Center. Mr. Mayor, you correctly stated that members are not allowed to raise their hand during the public comment period. You instructed me to contact members of the council individually. Approximately 2 days later, on behalf of Save Portola Hills, I did so. The content of my communication was simple. Are you willing to sign the letter to Baldwin, which is also signed by many local residents? Or if not, just explain why. After reaching out, I received the following reply, confirmation number 5025 from city employee Carlo Tomino. I hope pronunciation is correct, and I quote, "Thank you for contacting the City of Lake Forest. Staff will forward your message to the entire City Council for their information." Since then, over 3 weeks ago, not a single council member has responded to us. 3 council members are ignoring a local group with almost 400 members. Why the silence? The City of Lake Forest Ethics Principles, Section 2.5, states that council members have a duty to, and I quote, deter rumors and misunderstandings by making factual information available, answering questions directly, telling the truth, and admitting a lack of knowledge if one exists. In my opinion, the aforementioned 3 council members, Voights, Robinson, and Nick, are not currently living up to their duty. In contrast, it's worth noting that newly elected council member Dr. Gardner has been a great example of communication, outreach, and reason. While he may not agree with our group on every last detail, he is genuine, open, and dedicated. It would serve the incumbent members well to follow his example. Thank you to the council, city employees, and the audience for your time.
Thank you.
We've had no further requests.
Okay, at this time, that brings to the consent calendar warrant register item 9. All matters listed under the warrant register are considered routine and will be enacted by one vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless members of the City Council, the public, or staff request specific items to be removed from the warrant register for separate action. Have we any requests from the public?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, council members, anything you'd like to pull from the warrant register?
Move warrant registry.
Okay, there's a motion to move the warrant register.
Second.
Second. So, council members, seeing no further discussion, cast your votes. Warrant register passed unanimously. That brings to the consent calendar miscellaneous items 10 through 16. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by one vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless members of the City Council, the public, or staff request specific items to be removed from the consent calendar for separate action. Do we have any requests from the public?
We've had no requests.
Council members, anything you'd like to pull from 10 through 16?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, number 13.
Okay. Number 13 by Councilmember Hamilton.
Number 11.
Number 11 by Councilmember Gardner. Seeing no further, I'll entertain a motion on the balance.
Move the remainder.
There's a motion.
Second.
And a second. Council members, cast your votes on items 10, 12, what do we have here? 10, 12, 14, 15, 16. Those items pass unanimously.
Agenda item 11, minutes of the regular meeting of the City Council held on November 18, 2014, submitted by City Clerk.
I'm only pulling it to say that I abstained because I wasn't here.
Okay.
Same here.
Okay. So, seeing
That I move the item.
Well, since you're abstaining, I'll take a motion from.
I'll move item number 11.
I'll second. So, all right. So the three of us, three can cast their votes with 2 abstentions here. And the item passes 3-0 with 2 abstentions.
Agenda item 13, monthly treasurer report, November 2014, submitted by Director of Finance, City Treasurer, and removed from the consent calendar by Councilmember Hamilton.
Councilmember Hamilton.
Sure. So I want to thank staff for all their help. I had multiple discussions with multiple staff members, and I just have a few comments. I think our investment policy is more restrictive than the California Government Code as it relates to a few items I'd like to highlight. Maximum maturity length. It's in the current policy is 4 years, and 5 years by law is allowed. The weighted average maturity is not defined in the California Government Code with a maximum or minimum, but it is currently defined in our investment code. I'm sorry, in our investment policy. And the percentage of portfolio invested in certain investments are more restrictive than the city's investment policy. Sorry, let me say that again. The percentage of portfolio invested in certain investments are more restrictive in the city's investment policy than compared to the California Government Code. I love plain vanilla investments, and so I don't think that I want to make any changes to those types of investments. However, I'm seeking consensus from my colleagues. I'm also not a big fan of the repurchase agreements, but in any case, to summarize, I want to give staff more flexibility in investment procedures to maximize the investment earnings with very conservative investments, always keeping in mind safety, liquidity, and yield. And I'd seek consensus from my colleagues to agendize review of the policy at staff's convenience.
I second that.
Is this a good time for that? Does that work? Mr. City Attorney.
Yeah, that's fine. At this stage, our own comments, that's appropriate. Thank you.
Okay. Is that enough direction to the staff with
I believe so, Mr. Mayor. The regular schedule to review your investment policy be around June when you adopt a new budget, but the sense I get is that you'd like to have that conversation earlier, so the staff will schedule that as if directed by the council to do that, certainly earlier than June.
Okay. All right. So I think consensus there. So we're on the item, but we still need to pass the item if there. So.
I'd like to move the item.
Okay, so there's a motion on item.
Second that.
13. Second by Mayor Pro Tem Nick. Seeing no further discussion on the item, council members cast your votes on item 13. Item passes unanimously. And I know that we've got item 17, which I kind of figure is probably going to take a little bit of time. We also have our lobbyist in the room, David Jones, so I'm going to move item 19 up right now ahead of 17 and 18. So.
Agenda item 19, 2015 legislative platform, submitted by City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. I will actually turn it over to Mr. Tomaino to introduce our lobbyist and to provide brief remarks as it relates to this item.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. As you know, every year we prepare a legislative platform, which really is the cornerstone of our legislative program each and every year. We keep in mind the direction that we've received in the council over previous years in putting together the platform, which is why it's so extensive. Every year we review it, make recommendations and changes as appropriate. You'll find that we've made one change this year relative to some issues that we've had reoccurring to prevailing wage, and so we've identified that for you in the staff report and in the red line version of the platform. We're happy to answer any questions that you might have or entertain any suggestions regarding any potential modifications to that effect. In addition to the platform, of course, we have a presentation from David Jones. He's with Emmanuel Jones and Associates, our legislative consultant. He was very instrumental in assisting the city throughout the years with our legislative platform, its implementation, and also, of course, the passage of AB 2647. We're very proud of that effort. And with that, I will have David Jones provide some remarks on an overview of our legislative year, and then hopefully he will provide us with some insight on the things that we might be able to expect in the upcoming legislative. Thank you.
First of all, I just want to say welcome and just let you know how much I appreciate your help with that assembly bill last year. I know that 1 minute that I got to testify before a committee made all the difference.
It was it.
So
I hope that was in your list of accomplishments. That
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Well, it actually should have been in my list of accomplishments, but really you played an integral role as well as the staff here. And I think that a lot of the members of the community probably don't know how beneficial that is. I've mentioned it once or twice, but it's one of those things that is a huge win for us, but is one of those non-glamorous things, just like I was talking about with Intergov. So, but it has a lasting impact. So, thank you very much for that.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, good evening. I'm glad to be here. I'll start with good news. The legislature's out of session until January 5th, so you can have a happy holiday and celebrate. Give a brief look back at what happened, and then launch into what's coming up next year. I know you've got a lengthy set of items ahead of me, so I will be brief. We have a new pro tem from the South and a speaker from the South, so this breaks with the tradition of normally having one leader from the northern part of the state. We had 27 new assembly members out of 80, so more than a quarter of the assembly turned over to different hands. 15 out of 40 of the senators are new, so we have a lot of change, a lot of things coming down the pike. The Democrats lost their two-thirds majority in both houses. They had two-thirds going in the last cycle. They lost them in both. They're unlikely to get them back. We have 3 open seats, special elections, including one in Orange County, to fill. So with that loss of those two-thirds votes, the Democrats cannot pass taxes or put things on the ballot. So that has changed the outlook of what's going to be coming. I will mention Mr. Wagner's efforts on 2647. It was a great piece of legislation. It was specific for us. He did a great job. His staff was wonderful. Your staff was wonderful. Carlo and David and Elizabeth and Bob did a fabulous job in responding and being nimble. That was the only redevelopment bill that the governor signed. He vetoed 5 other ones. And the other ones were all by Democrats. So that was kind of a sweet victory for us to actually have that bill signed. So that was great. Looking back, the major things that passed in the last session, water bond, as you know, rainy day fund was passed. Groundwater monitoring, they're now for the first time going to have a state intervention in local groundwater, so we'll have to watch to see how that comes out. They passed a ban on plastic bags, and that is going to be the subject of a potential referenda. And I guess my takeaway for the legislative session, the worst thing that happened in the legislative session last year was the low voter turnout. Now, why was that bad? Because that sets the bar for the initiative game. So the initiatives in this current year have to gather 500,000 valid signatures. Because the turnout was so low in the gubernatorial election, the threshold now is only 370,000 signatures. So for the next 2 years, you are likely to see initiatives go on sale. So bad news for the voters. I think there's going to be an awful lot of things that are going to find their way on the ballot when it's only going to cost about $1 million to qualify something. So that's not so good. Looking forward to next year, first thing out of the box, you probably saw the governor and both houses complaining about the UC tuition hike, so that's going to be top on the agenda when the governor comes back with his budget. We'll also see medical marijuana will come back again. The League of Cities and Police Chiefs Association tried to get a bill to get more local control for medical marijuana regulation, so that will definitely be coming back. Realignment of inmates. We've had the governor's proposal, AB 109, that had early release, trying to get the level of inmates at state facilities down. That is causing problems around the state. We're very lucky in Lake Forest. You've got a very safe city, but other places are not quite so fortunate. So we're seeing a lot of realignment problems. And when the voters passed Prop 47 and also had additional releases, so we're going to have additional low-level offenders out in the streets. So that's not going to be good for a lot of communities. Water bonds passage, we're going to be looking, since the voters approved it, probably going to be looking at water bond funding coming out next summer. So there may be some opportunities for stormwater recapture and some other recycling and conservation, so we'll be looking for that. Cap and trade will apply for the first time to fuels on January 1st. So the oil companies and the gas companies are going to have to buy carbon offsets starting January 1, and the estimates is that's going to have an increase of the gas tax or gas prices from 7 cents to 70. Nobody knows exactly how much it's going to be, but look for a little sticker shock come January 1 when this cap and trade applies. You'll be hearing about something coming up next year called the RUC, and it's partly because people like me who drive, I drive a plug-in car. I don't pay much gas tax. I think I've had my car since May, and I've bought 17 gallons of gas. So what that means is that all the roads, all your public works departments, you've seen a very significant decrease of the gas tax revenue, and that's the main source of fixing roads. So Oregon and Washington have started a program called the Road Usage Charge. They're rolling it out, and it's being considered for California. So that's going to try to get something to get some revenue from people that aren't paying the traditional gas tax. So that'll be interesting to see how that rolls out. Lots of talks about bonds. There's a discussion about a park bond, a library bond, a school facility bond, and possibly an affordable housing bond. So we'll see if that comes to fruition next year. The other things, when I mentioned the initiative number going down, there's a number of initiatives that are being discussed actively in Sacramento. Some, as I mentioned before, the grocers are out gathering signatures to put the bag ban before the voters, and if they get their 500,000 signatures, that will appear in November 2016. There's talk about making marijuana entirely legal, so that is unlikely. That is likely to be one of those initiatives that will get that signatures, and it will either go on the 16 or the 18 ballot. So watch for that one. Prop 30, the taxes that the governor said were temporary. He's reiterated those taxes are temporary, but there are people in Sacramento that want to see those taxes extended beyond their date, so we expect that to be possibly one of the things that might be coming. Oil severance tax, there's a billionaire from the Bay Area, Tom Steyer, who's got it in for the oil industry, so we expect him to come back with an oil severance tax, possibly for the ballot. There's also pension reform, the mayor of San Jose, very out front on trying to get some pension reform, and that is expected to come out for the signature gathering. The governor also has $26 million in campaign funds that nobody knows what he's got $26 million to do with, so we're thinking that he may be looking at initiatives to cement his legacy projects, the high-speed rail project and then the twin tunnels to get water down south. So we'll be looking to see what he does with those. So I always like to end with good news, and the good news is that state revenues are up about $1 billion from the start of the fiscal year. So July 1 to now, they're tracking about $1 billion over what the governor projected. So luckily for us, it doesn't look like the governor's spending plan is not going to be likely to have much pain for local governments. So that's good news. So with that, I'd be happy to answer questions.
Questions from my colleagues?
I have a question, Mr. Jones. Thank you. You said there's talk about the realignment of inmates. What exactly is that talk? Is it going to accelerate, decelerate, stay about the same?
I think the problems associated with the realignment, the governor was under a court order to get the prison population down to a certain level. So they're moving to hit the target. I think that they will hit the target, so they're going to have to get down another 10 to 15,000 inmates. But the real problem is a lot of the money went to the counties and not much money went to cities as far as where the problems are. So we're looking at seeing if there was a little money given to city government this last budget, $40 million statewide. But we'd like to see more money going to city government so you can have more officers in your city to take care of the people that are now on probation.
My understanding was that they got down reasonably rapidly to that 10 or 15,000, but that getting beyond that was a problem. That's still the case?
That is the case, yes. So they're still going to be working on it. They're under a court order, so the governor is confident he's going to be able to make that deadline, but we'll see exactly what that ramifications are for us.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you for your involvement with 2647. Obviously, Assemblyman Wagner was thrilled to get that passed for the city of Lake Forest and the community here. So thank you for your part in that. That was a huge victory for us, considering it's a Republican legislative office and a Republican county, and we got
a unanimous vote.
And it was a unanimous vote, and it was a single issue city. It only pertained to the city of Lake Forest, and so it was a huge victory for us. And so thank you so much for that. Concerning the state assembly and the state senate, obviously that's something that we all are concerned about because of taxes. They need a 2/3, and where are we on the head count there? For the good of the people out here, where are we at with the state assembly? How much of a cushion do we have in the state assembly? How much cushion do we have in the state senate?
Well, the state senate is going to be down many members because of special elections. So you've got 2 Democrats and Mimi Walters' seat, two Republicans and 1 Democrat seat that's going to be going to special elections. So they're not going to have their full 40 senators until probably spring. Right now, the Democrats they need 27, and I think they have 25. And in the Senate and in the Assembly, they are down to 51, and they need 54. So two votes in the Assembly, or in the Senate, with one being an extra one being a vacancy right now, and then 3 in the Assembly. 3 in the
Assembly. What's your prognosis on the gas prices with the gas tax being added?
Well,
carbon emission.
I have no idea. I mean, this is going to be a live auction, so it depends on what the demand is out there for the carbon credits. I've heard the people guessing around 10 cents a gallon.
One last thing, vehicle miles traveled tax, is that the one they're talking about?
The RUC, yes, the road usage charge. Okay. That's the same as a VMT. Yeah.
So as they negotiate that, basically people, the amount of price we pay on gas is exorbitant here in the state of California because we have excess of taxes on our gasoline, and they're thinking about changing that or adding a vehicle mile travel tax. So were they to be going away with the tax on petroleum?
how often do they take away taxes when they have a chance up in Sacramento? I don't find it very likely. I wish my crystal ball would tell me, but my sense is no, is that they really want to get something to get, have an augmentation to First Streets and Roads.
Thank you.
Welcome.
One quick question. I think you said that it went from 500,000 to 370.
Right.
When does that take effect? Because I think you might have said the trash bag, or the shopping bag.
Yeah, the shopping bag is under the last gubernatorial election, because that was a bill passed this last time. So it has to get 500,000 valid signatures, which means they need to gather like 850,000 in order to get 500 valid. And for the 2016 and 2018, it will be the 370.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome.
All right. Any questions from staff at this point?
No.
Okay.
No further questions unless you have any recommendations on the platform.
Okay.
I'd just like to thank you all. It's great working with your staff and great working with you all. Look forward to the next 2 years.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay. So is there any questions or comments on the platform itself? I assume there's no public comments.
We've had no requests.
So any questions or comments on the 2015 legislative platform?
Yeah, I've got a few.
Okay. Councilmember Hamilton.
So on the policy number 4, it says the league has taken a position, it doesn't say this, but the League of California Cities has taken a position to reopen Prop 218. Great consumer protection, and I'm strongly against reopening Prop 218 and Prop 13 for that matter, so I'm not really in favor of policy position number 4. And policy number 8, I think LAFCO has taken a leadership on this issue for Orange County municipalities, and I was wondering if we should follow LAFCO's position on that. Regarding the staff memo, the OPEB and pension reform, I think I want to be a little bit more specific on that.
Okay. Staff tracking some of the comments just to start with here. Okay. You have a question at all?
And Mr. Members of the Council, I just want to make sure I understand what's being asked. On number 8, it's really the League's efforts as it relates to redevelopment. So there is a connection there. If you're talking about maintaining financing capabilities for local government through state of California, the legislature, I'm not sure that's exactly what LAFCO's policy is focused at, but could you be a little more specific about what it is, Councilmember Hamilton, that you're sort of interested in as it relates to that particular item?
Yeah, the redevelopment. And you said 8, correct?
That's what I was reading. I believe it's 8 is redevelopment. Is that what?
Yes.
What you thought too? Okay.
Yeah. So I'll continue along. So a little more specific on that OPEB and pension reform. I know I'm not going to be popular with staff, but I think maybe benefit reduction would be something that I'd like to include. I know that also would affect me, so I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I think that brings a lower cost to the city and to the residents, which is who elected me. And then the new economy of verbiage, I just think it's a little broad, and I know that you're summarizing there, but I think there's unintended consequences, and I think I don't want us to lobby for increased taxes or increased items that can be taxed, like services. I think this obviously needs to be balanced against the backdrop of the current city revenues, which fund our streets, fire, police. But I'm just concerned about higher and broader taxes being put on the legislative platform. And then I just have a question to my colleagues. I don't know if, I just don't know if we still need to belong to the League of California Cities.
Okay. Any other comments from? Okay. Councilmember Voights.
Obviously, we have on item number 14 opposed legislation that seeks to implement the construction of the Foothill South. What do we mean by that? just for clarification.
Mr. Members of the Council, that's been on the platform for some time when there was efforts, I think, through the legislature to derail the extension of the 241 all the way down where it would connect up with the 5. So I don't believe there's anything that's current, but this was put in there as a placeholder to ensure that if that ever were to come back in Sacramento, then the city would be opposing any legislation that would fundamentally prevent the extension of the 241.
All right. And I guess maybe for our lobbyists, there's been a lot of talk about Proposition 13 and split roles and going after the. Where do we stand on that? And could we get the support of our council? Could I bring that back in for a resolution in support of Proposition 13, our property taxes, and keeping our property taxes lower in the state of California?
Absolutely. I second that, Mr. Boyce.
And I'd like to third that.
Mr. City Attorney, is that appropriate under this agenda item?
Yeah, the council can
okay.
I think it relates to this enough.
Great.
I think that with the loss of the supermajority they have, there kind of derails that attack against Proposition 13. Obviously, we've all been under immense pressure, and just with the financial crisis our state's been in. So that's good news to us all.
Okay. Any other comments from council members?
I don't. What did you want to do about your discussion of the League of Cities? Do you want to bring that up as a consensus item in comments, or talk about it here?
We can do it in comments.
Okay.
Call for the vote.
Mr. Mayor, I'm not entirely certain whether or not there was additional support by council. Clearly there was on the resolution related to Prop 13, but for the other issues that Councilmember Hamilton raised, I'm not if that was in the form of a motion and you have a second to change from the League of Cities to LAFCO as it relates to redevelopment issues. I think that was one of them. So I just want to be clear what the motion is and what you'd be doing in deference to what Councilmember Hamilton was requesting.
Sure. And there wasn't any second out there at this point. So hold on one second, and I'll definitely let you get to it. I think that the first comment that you had with respect to item 4, which the city will take into consideration strategic goals adopted by the League of California Cities, it's going to potentially could be addressed down the road based on whatever your council comments are. So I'm guessing that's the direction that goes. With respect to number 8, just because I don't have all the information in front of me, I would want to try to understand what LAFCO's position is first. And since I don't have that in front of me, then I just wouldn't feel comfortable making a decision tonight. So that's just me personally. But and then your other issue, it was the OPEB and
pension reform. Yeah.
Okay. And what item was that? Just so that I'm clear.
It's in the staff memo.
Okay. And what page? Just so I'm clear. Is where you're at here.
It's I think second or third page of the memo. So 180. Nope. It is bottom 176.
Bottom 176. Okay, and this is just basically the goals of League of California Cities as well, right? It's under their goals for the year, am I correct? Okay.
Mr. Mayor, yeah, those are, we've briefly outlined for you the League's most current strategic goals along with the ACCOCs. That's really for your information. I mean, they have a fairly broad platform themselves that represents various interests, and so we've outlined those for you in the body of the staff report. That doesn't really comprise an element of the legislative platform at this time.
Okay, but so that's not a part of our legislative platform, but that's part of the strategic goals of the League of California Cities, right?
That's correct. In relation to item number 4, in which we say that the city will take into consideration the strategic goals of the League, To that effect, we have some language in there in which we would take into consideration those efforts as well.
Okay. So, again, I think that could potentially be addressed by that particular future discussion. So would that satisfy?
And also the new economy verbiage would
Okay.
be that too.
Okay, so that would satisfy all of
those,
that?
yep.
Okay, all right. So is that, I don't want to, I'm not trying to work you out of a motion or
No.
trying to get consensus, but it seems like we're already kind of addressing it.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Any clarification?
Councilmember Woods.
On any of the leagues or the ACCOC, don't we take it issue by issue as we come up with it? I mean, we're taking a broad thing. We're not voting in support of all their issues.
Councilmember Voights, that is correct. We would take into consideration those issues individually on a case-by-case basis. The legislative platform provides a broad sort of direction for the council in terms of any or single element of these items. And so as things come up that we feel are relevant for your information that either of these organizations may be considering, we bring those to your attention first and then request some direction, whether you want to support that action, not support that action, or take no action at all. And so at a time that's appropriate, we would bring those items up individually to you for your consideration.
Thank you.
So it, just following up on that, I mean, since we're members of these two organizations, then we've just always kind of taken a look at what their strategic goals are for the year. Those are outlined in the report, but again, not necessarily what our platform will be, just taking it into consideration. So just to reiterate what he was saying. So, okay. All right. Does that satisfy where you were at? Okay. Any other comments?
Move to file.
So there's a motion to adopt. Is that?
Adopt.
Okay.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt. Do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay, second on motion to adopt the 2015 legislative platform with the additional comment and what we've already done, I guess. So, any further discussions?
Wasn't there a motion and a second on the Prop 13? And
there was a
vote on it?
There was a consent.
Oh, that's a bring back because he
that
was looking for a separate resolution.
Bring back a separate resolution, yeah.
Yeah, just consensus. So, yeah. Okay, so there's a motion and a second to adopt 2015 legislative platform. Seeing no further discussion, council members cast your votes. Item passed unanimously. And then now we'll go back to item 17.
Agenda item 17, appeal of the Planning Commission's approval of a determination of public convenience or necessity for the mobile gas station located at 21721 Lake Forest Drive, submitted by Director of Development Services.
Find my... Okay, and so this item is an appeal of the Planning Commission's approval of a finding of public convenience or necessity, also known as a PCN, for a mobile gas station located at 21721 Lake Forest Drive, related to the application for a permit for the from the California Department of Alcohol Beverage Control for the sale of beer and wine at the mobile gas station. This hearing will be conducted pursuant to sections 2.04.100 through 2.04.130 of the Lake Forest Municipal Code, as well as procedural requirements created by case law. Before we proceed, the city attorney will provide a brief overview of these procedural requirements.
Thanks, Mayor and Council. I'd like to do the first part of that, and then to ask special counsel I'll introduce in a moment to finish that up. There is a line of cases relating to constitutional due process that we call the Nightlife Quintero line of cases, and what those decisions hold is that when a body is considering a quasi-adjudicatory or quasi-judicial application like this one, the legal team that assists staff in bringing that forward to hearing is barred from advising the City Council in acting in its duties to hear the application. So because my firm has been involved considerably in bringing this staff report and this application forward to the Planning Commission and now to the City Council, we've asked Jacqueline Vanacchia to substitute in to advise the Council as in its hearing role on this. Jackie is a partner at Lounsbury, Ferguson, Altona, and Peak. And so with that introduction, I'll switch seats with her and take my place as advisory to staff while she advises the Council from this point forward.
Great. And just a question for the City Clerk. Is this appropriate time I should open the public hearing? Correct. So I'll formally open the public hearing.
Good evening to the Council and the Mayor. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
All right. And so I think we'll go to the city staff to first present a staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Members. City Council, I'll defer to Gail Ackerman to provide staff's report on this item.
Thank you. And good evening, Mayor and members of the city.
Excuse me, if we can back up just a little bit. There's a little more to the script after Mr. Smith's comments, so that we can go through.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
My mistake. So, just trying to keep it all going here. So, all right. City Council's role in this matter is to decide whether to uphold or reverse the Planning Commission's decision and deny, approve, or decline to act on the application for a PCN. The City Council has reviewed all submitted evidence and is prepared to listen to all evidence and testimony presented during this hearing and to render an impartial judgment based on the evidence before us at this appeal. To ensure an impartial hearing, City Council members are required to disclose the details of any contact or communication related to the appeal that were made prior to this hearing. The Special Counsel will assist the City Council in this disclosure process. So, apologize.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, there's another line of cases involving procedural due process that involves the quasi-judicial requirements or obligations of the City Council, and that is to impartially decide all quasi-judicial matters before it. And along those lines, the City Council each individual council member is asked to disclose any relationship, history, with the applicant and or the issues coming before the City Council at this time. I would ask that the City Council members individually each identify those. I suppose we can start with the Mayor.
Great. From my perspective, I actually appealed this Planning Commission decision I believe in September. Within the timeline set forth in our municipal code. I appealed it as a member of the public rather than as a council member. We have the option to have two council members appeal an action. Being that we were, number one, involved in an election that at times got heated, and then we're also under certain time constraints. I chose to appeal individually, but have no personal connection with the applicant and have no passion one way or another on the issue. I'm prepared tonight to hear all the evidence that's presented orally as well as what's been provided to us in written form and render a decision on an impartial basis. I would like to state one other thing. A couple of meetings ago, a member of the public did come to the mic and suggested that I may have in some way had some communication with the gas station during the election period, and I didn't want to embarrass the individual at the time, but don't recall ever having any type of communication with the owner of the station at any point. I've lived in town for about 15 years. I've probably been to the station sometime in the last 10 years, but I really can't even recollect when, because all my gas cards are with other companies. So, but I just remember the public was mistaken, and so I didn't want to point that out, but I wanted to make that clear tonight that I haven't had any communication with the applicant in any way.
Thank you, Mayor. Can we ask Mayor Pro Tem Adam Nick to make his statement?
Thank you. Based on a detailed conversation I had with you, Madam City Attorney, and based on your recommendation and advice, I must recuse myself from the proceedings to make sure that there is no impropriety or appearance of impropriety. As such, I take your strong advice, and I recuse myself from the proceeding with your permission, Mr. Robinson.
Absolutely. If that's your choice today. So, all right.
Going on with the already sitting council members, I'll ask Councilmember Voigt, do you have anything to disclose this evening?
I have nothing to disclose tonight, except that I used to work at that mobile gas station back in high school, and he did have a banner of my opponent this election cycle, so that's about the only thing that I have to disclose. In fact, that I have got gas there. I spent many hours there closing the gas station, so I have nothing. So I'm ready to prepare to have an unbiased and fair viewing of the evidence.
Thank you. We'll move to the new council members. Councilmember Hamilton.
Yes, thank you. I was on the Planning Commission and was the chair of that procedure when we voted during the original appeal of this item in late August 2014. As this is a start over or de novo hearing, I am starting over and not prejudging this item, keeping an open mind to the testimony and evidence, and making a decision on this information here tonight. I'm not tied to my vote on the Planning Commission, therefore I have no bias or conflict in deciding this matter.
Thank you, Councilmember Hamilton. Councilmember Gardner.
And, you know, if I could add one thing, I think
sorry.
I did go to the gas station within the last 6 months.
I've had no discussions with the appellant. I have no a priori biases at play, and I'm prepared to hear the case and decide with an open mind on the issues. On the other hand, the special counsel for the city and I have been discussing this issue at considerable length and some cost to the city. I'm not convinced that she is correct in her recommendations, but equally I'm not convinced that she is incorrect. At this time, without establishing any precedents for future discussions, I accept her recommendation to recuse myself from participating any further on this item at this time. Thank you, and with your permission, Mr. Mayor, I will join Mr. Nick in the audience.
Absolutely. All right, then before we move forward with the staff report, maybe you can just give us, I think this is a bit of an anomaly for us. I think we have had one member recuse themselves in the past, but I'm not sure about two, at least not during my tenure. And so how would the decision be determined? Is it a majority vote of the 3 sitting, or is it 3 out of the 5? How does that work?
It would be, you have a quorum sitting, so you're able to proceed on the matter, and it would be a majority vote of the council members seated.
So majority of the 3
3
of us, so a 2-member one way or another. Okay.
Correct.
All right. Thank you. And then I apologize for not getting that out of the way before we move to the staff report. I wasn't exactly sure as far as order, so thank you for clarifying that. And then we'll go to the staff report. So I think as city manager said, it would move to Ms. Ackerman.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and council members. In March of this year, the operator of a mobile gas station at the northeast corner of Lake Forest and Trabuco submitted a request to the city for a determination of public convenience or necessity, or PCN, in order to obtain a license to sell beer and wine from the location. The California Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control, the ABC, regulates the issuance of alcohol licenses. The ABC determines the number of licenses that may be issued within each census tract within the city based on population within the tract as determined from the last census. When the allowable number of licenses is reached, the census tract is considered by ABC to be unduly concentrated, and the city must then make a determination of PCN before an additional liquor license may be issued by the ABC. The City Council adopted a policy in 1998 which delegates the decision to make a determination of PCN to the Director of Development Services when it is a standalone application, or to the Planning Commission when the request is made in conjunction with a use that requires Planning Commission approval. The applicant carries the burden of demonstrating that PCN would be served by the granting of an additional license by providing facts regarding the existing and proposed operations and the surrounding area. The staff report outlines the applicant's proposal, including operational details, security measures, and a floor plan for the convenience mark. In March of 2014, the Director of Development Services determined that the material submitted by the applicant did not contain sufficient facts or information that adequately demonstrated that PCN would be served, and therefore denied the application. The decision was appealed to the Planning Commission, and at a public hearing in August, the applicant provided a thorough presentation and a revised floor plan. The Commission approved the PCN with the findings outlined in your staff report and in the resolution of approval that's attached to your report. The action of the Planning Commission has now been appealed to the City Council, and as indicated in the report, the Council has 4 options for potential actions, which include the following: deny the PCN determination and direct staff to provide an appropriate resolution for denial at the next council meeting, approve the PCN determination and again direct staff to provide a resolution, 3, decline to act on the PCN and direct staff to notify the ABC of that, or continue the hearing until the materiality analysis previously requested by the council is complete and other questions have been addressed. A representative of the applicant is here this evening and would like to present additional details regarding the project. That concludes that staff report, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you very much. And just how we're going to go about this tonight. We got the staff report. Now we're going to have representatives for the applicant who will present the reasons for their application, evidence not previously submitted. Then I'll have the City Council ask questions of both staff as well as the applicant. And then after that, members of the public will have an opportunity to comment on the appeal, and then we'll have a chance to deliberate after that. So the applicant first, then the council members can ask questions of the applicant and the staff, then members of the public, then we can have a discussion up at the dais. So at this time, the applicant can come to the mic. I understand you had a slide presentation, and before you get started, just make sure that we all have copies of that. Typically, from a time frame perspective, for something of this magnitude, we grant about 10 minutes, so is that going to be sufficient for you?
Yeah, it should.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Great, and I think we all have your slide presentation now in paper form.
Right. And what I would like to do is thank the council members. Thank you very much, Gail, for providing us further information and being very available to us. We appreciate your work that you've done for the city and for helping us as people and members of the public wanting to provide a service to the city of Lake Forest and to the community members here. One thing, I know that you said that you had signed, or that you had brought this as a resident, however, you did sign it as the mayor, and I just wanted to confirm that that wasn't going to cause any conflict or anything.
Not to my knowledge. I actually worked with staff and our city attorney when crafting that language. So, but I'll let the city attorney comment on that.
Mayor, I think the question was more related to whether or not you personally had any particular position or bias in regards to that. And I think you answered the question, but you should feel free to restate that if you'd like.
Yeah, again, I don't have any preconceived notions on this. The discussion about PCNs has been one that has probably raised a lot of passions. I think you'd find from previous events, I'm not one that has been incredibly passionate one way or another. It was just mainly trying to make sure that we had a fair and impartial discussion of this issue, and that we brought it to council, since I think every PCN that the city's considered since I started has had some council action of some sort. So rather than having it turn into some sort of election issue or anything like that, I wanted to try to keep it as benign as possible. So, and we won't take away from her time as I'm responding.
Well,
to this
thank
question,
you very much for clarifying that. We just wanted transparency, openness, and making sure that if there was any questions that you had for us, to direct them so that we could answer them ahead of time. Now, turning to the presentation that we have here, this is the mobile station, and it's located on the corner of Lake Forest and Trabuco. And the city, or the Planning Commission, as Mr. Hamilton had previously stated, is that it was approved on 8/28 to go forward with this. And bottom line, the reason for this is petition to do this is to add more convenience, further convenient for the loyal customers that do come in and are serviced by the mobile station. I know that there's been several concerns about swimming in alcohol and so on and so forth, and that quite is not our intention whatsoever at all. What it is basically is to add further convenience for individuals that do live in that area. And I would like to skip ahead, because you all can take a look at the slides as we go ahead and move ahead. And unfortunately, there's no numbers on this slide here. There is, if you'll go to the page that has the layout, you can see the layout of what is currently there. That that has a little mini mart associated to it, and then a smog station there. Then there's pictures of the beverage cases and snacks, so if you're not familiar with what's there, it does show exactly what it is there. I'd like to skip ahead in the essence of time, so that I might be able to add further or be able to answer any questions that you have, to the slide listed as exterior surveillance. And if you'll skip ahead to that, you can see that there's a red circle there of some of the surveillance that's provided. Next page, you'll see that in red is current and then proposed surveillance. So what we're doing in the essence of security, we want to beef it up. We respect, the service to the customers and also the protection. We don't anticipate, as there have been police department studies and so on, and so law enforcement studies that have shown in the past that this will minimally, if anything, it's not going to increase crime whatsoever. However, in the essence of protecting the public, we will increase the proposed cameras that we do have with that. Skipping ahead to the map of Lake Forest, you can see where we're located between the two freeways and highways. Now there's a demographic page, if you'll take a look at that. Why did I include the demographic page? It's very important because it shows that the layout of the Lake Forest, city of Lake Forest, the demographics, the economics that flow through here. This is not a criminal element here. This is a bedroom community of more of an upper middle class, less propensity for crime, more of those that are coming and commuting home from work after a long day's work. They want to fill up their tank before they go home. Oops, honey, can you pick up a glass of wine, or can you pick up some wine for dinner? Or, the Stevens have decided that they wanted to show up for dinner tonight and I forgot to pick it up. More of a convenience. Not offering lower end, as we discussed during the commission meeting, single malts, none of that. It would be more of the upper scale of wine that we would be offering in the bottles, corks, of course, no screw tops. And same thing with the beer, would be microbrews, no single malts with that. So it's not going to be attractive to a younger element, it's not, or a criminal element or anything like that. It's more of a convenience. Also, what it does too is it provides an ability for my client and his establishment to be more competitive. There are some others that are in the area that do have the PCN and are able to offer that to the residents and individuals that are there. I do know that in the city of Lake Forest that if you'll skip ahead to map of census tract, please. You'll see that I've delineated with the blue lines the census tract boundaries, and we lie within census tract number 3. And if you'll see where the green star is, right there where the red dot is, that indicates where the 7-Eleven currently is. The reason that we have presented this to the City Council is if you'll take a look in census tract just to the bottom of it, the 0524.15, they have 0, and they're not going to have any. There might be one that's allowable for another gas station there that wouldn't even have to come before I'm sorry? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. No problem.
The same census tract is also in the staff report, so.
Right.
Yeah.
You keep going on.
Okay. So, and then in census tract number 2, there's only 2, and the propensity of them growing even more beyond that is minimal to none because of the fact that there's homes there. And so there's not an establishment that would be applying for that. I do know that you do have in census tract number 7 loads of them. That has nothing to do with us. That's not why we're here, and I don't believe that that should diminish any reason why my client should be harmed business-wise in whatsoever in dealing with that. That's a separate, different tract, and that's why I'm saying please let's stick to number 3, tract number 3, and the location that we are. If we were across the street, we wouldn't even be here today. We'd just be able to go, and apply for it and get it. And so that's why we respectfully are coming here, and we're open to answering any questions that you may have. And also, if you skip ahead just a little bit to where it says public convenience and necessity, it shows, again, the breakdown and the census tract numbers and how many are located there and allocated and so forth. So basically what this is, the reason that we're here and willing to answer the questions is we want to show to you that this is a public convenience. It's a convenience to those that do live in the neighborhood, that do live in there. It's not going to add to the criminal element whatsoever at all. If anything, it might increase safety. A single woman by herself might not feel comfortable at night going into a 7-Eleven where the parking lot's a little bit darker. It's an inconvenience to go to a grocery store just for a bottle of wine, to have to stand in long lines, have to find parking, especially during the holidays, so on and so forth. And so at that, I'm open for questions and see if we can answer any questions that you might have.
Great. So at this point, you can feel free to ask questions of either the applicant or staff before we move to public comment. So, Councilmember Voights.
Thank you for your presentation, and I'd like to clarify as we look at the census tracts here. We got a census tract that is just adjacent to us, 524.15. Isn't that the corner on the opposite side of the street? Isn't that a Chevron station? Do they not carry a Type 20 license?
It's a Shell station with a drive-through car wash, and no, they do not currently have a liquor license.
And that census tract, which census tract would that? That's 524. 1.15, is that the one you're saying that will not have any in the future?
No, because you've got the high school there, you've got residents that live there, so on and so forth.
But you got that gas station right there, too.
Right, but that would only be one within that census tract.
And not
If they did.
I'm just saying. Yeah.
Right, but I don't, yeah, and
That's hypothetical, but.
that's hypothetical.
Yeah,
Right.
and I appreciate your comments. I think those would probably be best directed toward staff to be able to.
That was my
answer those.
question,
Okay.
if that was a gas station, then have
Right.
a license.
Okay. Councilmember Hamilton?
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay. I've got a few. I was a little unclear just because there's a bunch. We've got about a 65-page staff report here, and
Sure.
it comprises both, I think, your initial application as well as some changes that were made after the Planning Commission decision. There's some movement of the location of where alcohol would be located in the store. And my first question is, do you know what your percentage of square footage for alcohol would continue to be? I read somewhere that it was 14%. I'm just wondering if it's sticking to that or if
Right, no, it
that's
would be
smaller or
sticking
bigger.
to that.
Okay, so
Right,
still 14%.
Exactly, it's still 14%.
Okay.
For the square footage, and it's not going to be any more than, greater than that.
Okay. And I notated, the hours that you're open. So presumably when you're not open, the pumps are still operating, yes or no? The gas pumps?
No.
They're not. Okay, so the facility, the entire facility is closed, so.
Exactly.
Okay. During those hours, then they would be, someone would need to go to a different location for whatever their need was.
Whatever their need is, gas station, yeah, gas.
Okay. All right.
And we would have, we have strict protocols in place currently because we sell cigarettes, just like many of the other liquor stores and gas stations, so on and so forth. So the staff is very well trained in IDing any possibilities of, young kids coming in there with fake IDs and that kind of thing. And we would also actually beef up training to them as well, too, to ensure that protocols in place would be met.
I have to say, well, I'll get into that because that's not really in the questions, but when I'm trying to really understand the convenience and the necessity part, and the necessity I always struggle with. That's why it's an and. So the convenience part is probably where my biggest struggle is, and just trying to, not particularly today, but just in general, trying to understand how it's more convenient, and there's a lot of different definitions for that. But
have you ever stopped for one soda pop at a grocery store at about 5, 6 o'clock in the afternoon?
Unfortunately, I have, because I'm a soda addict.
Right.
But yeah, I understand what you're saying there. So, and that makes perfect sense. So that part makes sense. Maybe you could explain what your thoughts were with regard to the automobiles being serviced. I'm figuring there's a longer duration when there's service required, right? So.
Not any more than them coming in to pay or grab a bag of chips or soda or anything else.
Okay.
So the duration of line isn't, and we're not foreseeing anybody consuming anything.
Okay.
The police would be called and so forth. And,
all right.
Right.
And then, so after the initial denial by the Director of Development Services, and then there was the appeal to the Planning Commission, I think the 3 points that were outlined in the letter were offer consumers additional alternatives and convenience, maintain competition in the area by retaining our current loyal customers and preventing them from switching to other competitors, and then provide additional employment opportunities. So just, I know you've got 3 points there. Any one of the points might, justify your suggestion of that it would be more convenient. But just working backward, do you anticipate hiring more employees because you're now being able to potentially sell beer and wine? That seems like one of the points. So
well, it could be. Say that it is more convenient. Say people say, hey, I really like that gas station. Maybe another attendant. Maybe the smog shop increases, so we have to have another attendant in there. It could quite possibly be that, maybe, but it's not going to hurt the business, obviously.
Sure.
What it does is and it brings more revenue to the city as well. So that's what we're hoping to do. And keep in mind, it's not just the regular $2 chuck, that Trader Joe's, that's what I like. But, or Thunderbird, the screw top, that kind of stuff, where people brown bag it. That's not what we're wanting to offer. We want to offer a higher end, or a little more, not, Dom Perignon for any means, but something that's good that you can take home and offer to friends, and it's really nice to be able to pop the cork and have a nice little relaxing dinner, or some microbrews. Give a little bit of a different, if they want the cheaper stuff, they can go to 7-Eleven, or they can go to the corner liquor store for that.
Would this displace current things that you're selling, or would you be adding more kind of retail merchandising in that small square footage?
It actually would not hurt any of it's a matter of just shifting over. And when I did the 14%, I did it of the square footage of the building in the whole itself. So that would not ever increase, because what I showed and presented to the commission is exactly where we would position the coolers and so forth. Just to give you a little my background, I'm not only have my doctorate in business, but I'm also a licensed general contractor, and I do a lot of rehabilitations and so on and so forth. So when Dr. Jafari approached me, he says, where do you think is the best for security reasons and, to suffice for the under 20%, where do you think, and how do you think that we can do this? We located it in that general corner that we showed on the newer set of layout drawings that I put together for that, in order to comply for that. Not only for that, but it's also within line of sight for the teller there, the cashier. So he's able to really be able, not only live sight, but also camera-wise and everything else. No, it would never change that 14%.
Okay, great. Staff, is there anything that you'd like to mention to us more than you already have, or does that kind of cover it?
We have no additional comments at this time.
All right. Okay. Anything else from my colleagues? Just questions from staff and applicants. We'll get to deliberate.
Yeah, I was just going to ask staff, Ms. Ackerman, the fourth thing that you said that would be an option, could you repeat that again? I think you said it was waiting for the analysis to be done.
The fourth point, it's in your staff report as well. So the staff report was prepared approximately a week ago, and the fourth option was to continue the hearing until the materiality analysis previously requested by the City Council is complete and questions related to the Political Reform Act have been addressed. So that may have occurred since the time that we wrote the report and being here today, but certainly when the report was published on the Thursday of last week, that was an option.
Okay.
May I say something about the materiality? In talking to Gail, I really kind of wanted to delve into that and understand a little bit more. I don't think that pertains to us so much with our situation, but I mean, I leave that in your hands. So.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, hold on. We'll go to the city attorney real quick.
The materiality study relates to Mayor Pro Tem Nick's business, and the materiality study was originally commissioned by the City Council in relation to the 99-cent stores. It was expanded to include the mobile station when the mobile appeal was submitted.
Is it fair to say that since he's recused himself that it's essentially a moot point?
Yes.
At this? Okay. Yep. Councilmember Woods.
This is the staff. Do we have two other appeals, and we were waiting for a policy. Were we moving forward with the policy? Is that something that we're moving forward with?
Mr. Members of the City Council, the longer-term and broader policy as it relates to the processing of PCNs also was an issue related to the materiality analysis that was done, and I think we're still waiting to hear some element of it relates to that broader policy conversation, but not as it relates to the instant applications that you have for the PCN and the appeals that are pending.
Great. Okay. And there's nothing to preclude us from asking questions of the applicant or the staff once we move to deliberations. Is that fair?
That's correct.
Okay. So at this point, I mean, I think that we've asked a fair number of questions. So I'd like to go to public comment. At what point, is it most appropriate for me to close the public hearings after public comment, or?
After the council deliberation.
Oh, after the deliberation. Okay. I just want to make sure that was clear. It's been a while since I've had to go through this whole process. So. Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And we're going to open it up to public comments. We may have some other questions for you.
And thank you again for allowing us to be here and to present this once again to you. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right.
Dave Bass, followed by Mary Picard.
Good evening, Dave Bass, Lake Forest resident. First, I'd like to comment on Councilmember Hamilton. I know it's not his decision, but the city attorney or the attorney's advice. But I think that advice is incorrect. Just last week, I finished my 8th time sitting as a juror, so I've been through voir dire 8 times and deliberations and that. And I think that someone who has previously decided on an issue has already stated their position and can't do that again. But anyway, in the report finding E, it says making for a highly convenient location for purchasing gas at the same time as purchasing alcohol. I think there's no real difference in getting it at the 7-Eleven store, which is just a few steps away, than at the gas station. And I'm not sure that getting gas and getting alcohol at the same time is a good mixture. As pointed out earlier, that there's right across the street a Shell station without alcohol sales, or beer and wine. I suspect that you'll be facing that soon. It's not that much. If there's a high school is an issue, there's an elementary school right across the street from it. But I think the distance is just the way you travel. It doesn't make that much of a difference. There was a floor plan originally submitted and then changed. But if the council were to approve this. Or allow the beer and wine, that there is nothing that would prevent the applicant from changing back to that, an original configuration or some other configuration, or increasing it over 14%, or changing the mix of the alcohol that's sold, because there's no enforcement mechanism associated with this action. I think it really gets down to the fact that the city needs an overall policy on it that contains the ability to enforce after the fact. Because if you put it in and they change the mix or whatever, have more than 14%, there's nothing the city can do. And this applicant has shown a willful desire and ability to violate the zoning code, in the fact that in the sign ordinance in the recent election, the weekend before the election, that Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, 3 banner signs were up, and then it was taken down on Monday. So they put it up when staff was not working, took it down, was not. Clearly knowing the law and knowing the ability to enforce the law was not there. And so I think in my mind it's a clear indication their willingness to disregard city law. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary Picard, followed by Robert D. Almeida.
Good evening. My name is Mary Pickard. I'm a resident of Lake Forest since 1990, mayor and city council. And I don't want to see this implemented at that mobile gas station. I live 3 blocks away from there. There is a Ralph's grocery store that sells alcohol. There is a CVS, and they sell alcohol. And there is the other thing right in the same corner. We don't need any more alcohol, and I would prefer that you vote against it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Robert D. Almeida.
Good evening. My name is Robert Almeida, and as a disclosure, I just want to state that last Friday I submitted my application. Hopefully you might consider me for one of the vacancies on the Planning Commission. I'm a citizen of Lake Forest. I'm 75. I'm retired. I'm a professional urban planner. I retired about 12 years ago, and I've been out of active practice. However, if I remember correctly, about 45 years ago, I wrote the first property development standards for a neighborhood convenience center for the city of Santa Ana. And as a consequence, I was called in to testify as an expert witness on the concept of a neighborhood convenience center. And I have to admit, at the time, I was employed by the parent company of 7-Eleven. I have no connection with 7-Eleven at all. And like I said, that was 40 years ago. On this matter, I'm talking to you as a citizen. I want to draw your attention to the first page, which is page 133. There's a photograph at the bottom of the page, and the premise is self-identified as a snack shop. And you'll notice that it's a couple inches short of 14 foot wide. That's less width than the length of a Prius. So it's a very small facility. And then if you turn to page 149 and you look at the floor plan and you look at the sales counter, the little snacks, the wine racks, the wine refrigerator, the beer refrigerator, the sad truth here is that you're really converting a snack shop into a liquor store. And I personally don't feel that there's a benefit to the community to have this little snack shop converted to a liquor store. All right. Now, as I understand, and somebody can help me out, on a quasi-judicial hearing, I'm a little rusty, the deliberating body does not have to make a finding of fact. But if you want to protect yourselves, you can make a finding of fact. And then also, you can lean on the idea of whether it's not so much convenience, but whether it serves a public benefit for the community. And I feel that they've failed to demonstrate that there really is a public benefit, some kind of a plus that's enjoyed by all of us, the people next to the place and the people driving up and down the street and stopping there. There's no real benefit to the city, and I request that you consider denial of this motion. Thank you.
Thank you.
There have been no further requests.
Great. Okay. So we'll bring it back to the council for deliberation, and so if you have comments beyond your just questions for staff or the applicant, or if you have questions for the staff or applicant, you can continue with those. So any questions or comments at this point? Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes. I think one of the things that, not related to this item, but I think that was a frustration for myself, potentially some other planning commissioners, was the lack of a policy by the City Council. And I know there are probably reasons for that. I think those are probably valid reasons. And I think eventually we need to do that policy, and I think it would also be interesting to do, and I think that was something that was in general, again, not related to this item, having a conditional use permit approval for new PC, any, I think it was any, Ms. Sacramento, was it, it wasn't just PCRNs, right? It was for all applicants, ABC applicants, right? Was what the CUP, I think we talked about potentially a CUP for all ABC licenses and not just PCRNs, correct?
Mayor and members of the Commission, in the past several years, the City Council has made changes to the city's commercial zoning district, and many of the uses, bars, liquor stores, do now require a CUP. One thing that isn't covered is when an existing use applies for an alcohol license. So there's a range of uses that involve serving or selling of alcohol, and we have no direction. Many of them are currently covered by a CUP. They weren't in years past, but with the last commercial zoning changes and the changes to the definitions, many of those uses are now covered and require a CUP. This particular use, where they're just adding alcohol, wouldn't fall into a category that requires a CUP with our existing regulations.
But we could change it.
Absolutely.
So those are just some of my initial comments. Maybe I'll circle back.
Councilmember Waits.
I have nothing further. The service mechanical, the smog and the mechanics stations will still stay. Okay. And not the mechanics station.
Okay, there was a question from during the public comment portion, or maybe it's just some comments with respect to potentially the location of the refrigerators or the merchandise displays could potentially move. That's not something that's required here. So they're giving us a layout, but is that layout required to stay the way it is, or down the line could it move?
Perhaps our legal counsel could comment. I think what you're asking is, could we perhaps put a condition of approval that the granting of the alcohol license is tied to this specific layout or amount of alcohol sales? I would have to ask some assistance on that.
Okay, so that would be my question in total. That was my next part, was could the 14% be expanded? I think the maximum is 20%, correct? Or is there no?
I'm not aware of any maximum.
I heard a 20% at one point tonight. So
I did too, Mr. Mayor. The license is not issued by the city. It would be issued by the ABC. So any conditions that would be placed on the license itself would be placed by the ABC, and that would be subject to any ABC rules. To the extent it could be changed, that would be dependent on ABC rules. I'm not sure if the actual location of the beverages in the store would be something that the applicant is committed to.
okay, and I know that was something that was of a concern in the past, and that's why it moved from one spot to the next, just because it would be potentially sitting there by the door. So again, I appreciate what's already been discussed and the change of plans. Just we're trying to understand how this might continue to be in this form rather than in another, maybe.
Just offer a proposal and an elaboration on that. I would agree that the ultimate conditions on this permit will be decided by the ABC, but the council could consider and include a provision in its correspondence to the ABC that these considerations were central to the council's finding of public convenience and necessity. So in the findings that would be included if the council adopted an approval position, you could say that these considerations were central to the council's determination. Agreed, those would not be binding on the ABC as conditions, but would underpin what the city decided if it took that approach.
Okay.
As a further to what Mr. Smith was saying, that's correct. I think that at the Planning Commission level, the Planning Commission had requested that the letter go to the ABC requesting that no single-serving alcoholic beverages be sold.
But again, the enforcement would be up to ABC with respect to that, and they could disregard that particular part and still move forward.
They're the final issuer of the license and any conditions on the license. That's correct.
Do we have any idea of how they generally accept or reject comments like that in letters based on previous experiences? Like if we were to add extra conditions, do they follow those, or do they just kind of disregard it and do their own thing? Is there a pattern?
I don't know of any.
Yeah, in the past, Mayor, any approval of a PCN has not included that. Okay. However, at the Planning Commission meeting, there was some discussion of an applicant voluntarily agreeing to certain things that we could forward that information to the ABC. So that could be a potential.
Okay. All right. It seems like there's some other questions or comments here. My struggle again is with trying to understand the convenience, because there are other avenues for making these purchases directly adjacent to the business. At the same time, I definitely appreciate, and this is where my dilemma really where I'm having this dilemma is that we've got that census tract adjacent that has 0 currently. I think the likelihood that it has 1 is probably pretty high. But it seems like one of the lesser saturated areas in the community. Not to say that you can't buy from a variety of spots, but it definitely is less saturated than say this part of town. And so that's where my struggle is right now. So, Councilmember Hamilton, do you have some comments or questions?
And just to piggyback on what you're saying, I think help me a little bit more, Ms. Ackerman. The CUP, could we craft something to say when someone comes in, if we were to implement a policy for the conditional use permit for ABC license? Could we condition the percentage, the layout, the location? Would those be factors in the CUP?
Are you talking about for this particular
if we were to have a CUP,
overall?
If we were to have a CUP process in place right now, I don't think it would just be practical to, it wouldn't be possible to implement that in the next period of days or weeks or whatever it would take.
I understand that there are all kinds of conditions you can place in conditional use permits. What you're talking about raises a whole another set of issues that would require some research by legal on doing something like that, and whether or not the restrictions can be that specific. And then there's also a question of whether or not creating a conditional use permit in this appeal process is something that would be allowable kind of retroactively. So we'd have to do some legal research on that.
Yeah, no, and I'm not necessarily saying it for this. I'm just saying for the future applicants to kind of address what the mayor's question was.
All right. So it sounds like at the Planning Commission level there was some, I guess, a voluntary agreement to not sell single-serve beer and malts. Is that right?
There was discussion about that, but again, it would have just been something that was included in a letter. We didn't have a particular finding when we looked at these findings. Well, actually, finding H does embody some of that. It says, finding H, the Planning Commission found that the new floor plan presented at the Planning Commission meeting on August 28th and the lack of single sales, beer and malt beverages at the mobile gas station provides safety and security for the business and Lake Forest citizens. So the discussion was had. We had a city attorney sitting with us who crafted the resolution after the discussion of the Planning Commission. And so I think that is how that concept was embodied. It was put into one of the findings that you can see now in your staff report.
Okay. So, and as Mr. Smith mentioned, we could potentially add other things, and then with the potential voluntary agreement or not of the applicant themselves. Is that fair to say? Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
That would be correct.
I'm only addressing him because he came to the mic, so I'm not trying to circumvent the process here. So
I understand. Thank
All
you.
right. Okay. Any other questions or comments from my colleagues? Okay. Seeing and again, discussing my dilemma here, it's probably like the least saturated that I've looked at in this city. I don't know that it's the least saturated in the city, but the least that I've seen come before us. I would actually like to move approval of the PCN here with some of the comments that were made with respect to what the Planning Commission set forth, the single sale of beer and malt, that wouldn't occur. And then also, I'm not sure that you're going to have to help me with this, but if we could get a voluntary agreement from the applicant to stick to the 14% and then stick to the current layout. And so that's kind of where my motion is with respect to a resolution here of approval. So.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a substitute motion.
Okay, Councilmember Voights.
I too like the location, but I think that I would rather have more defined requirements on that, and since we're bringing forth the 99-cent appeals that are coming forth, and I think there's the other people that are considering within the city, I think that a policy, something that we can have as a level playing field, I think that would be, I'd make a motion that we continue this along with the others as we craft a policy that would cover Lake Forest.
Okay, substitute motion to continue. Maybe our city attorney can respond to that. I know that we're under certain time constraints from state law perspective. So
I think we've held that because we've had to.
I just want to make sure we're addressing that.
The initial finding by the development director, I think, satisfied the timeliness requirements or the expedience requirements. The council is urged to make a finding as quickly as possible, but Councilmember Voight's motion is appropriate.
Okay, so there's a substitute motion for a continuance, and so there's that motion, at least at the moment. There's two here without a second.
I feel like Anthony Kennedy.
So there's not necessarily even. Do we necessarily have a substitute motion, or is it just two motions? Since there's no second on either one.
Yeah, we have two motions that are open for consideration. You can have additional discussion.
All right.
Before I second one of them, I just I don't know. I think it's almost a thought process of what is the best of the worst situations we've got here, and This applicant has gone through the process, and they deserve a decision. But along, the same lines, I think we've kind of hamstrung ourselves a little bit, and so, by not having a policy, not having the CUP process in place. And so I think I'm more inclined to continue it, because I think we still have the opportunity to have you come back, but I think we need to put some of these things in place. So I think that's what I'm going to go. I'm going to second the second motion.
Okay. Motion and second. Open for any discussion. Either of you have any comments?
My comment is to be unbiased to the mobile station or others that are in the appeal process, and the fact that we as a city want to do what's best for the community and the businesses. I think they would lay it down and just have a clear stated what the city of Lake Forest expects out of these, and instead of having gentlemen agreements, so to speak, with no binding really enforcement. And so I think that if we have a policy that moves us forward in a positive manner for the citizens and the businesses, I think that we're in a better shape for the future.
And just one more comment. I think I think it's not a no. I guess it's a wait. Is what I'm trying to get at. And I also was discouraged too to hear about that over the weekend. The prior Councilman Bass mentioned. I think that's really discouraging too. I don't think necessarily that had anything to do with my decision to second it, but I just wanted to state that too.
All right. I'm going to give you that opportunity. I mean, I'm sure that you'd love to see this done this evening, but I just want to understand your perspective. I mean, if we continue this, then what kind of impact does it have on you? I mean, is the station going to go out of business in the next few weeks because you don't have the opportunity? I mean, I don't know exactly where you're at, so I just want to.
Well, first off, to hold us into the same category as 99 Cent Store, both located within the Region 7 that is fully saturated, is unfair. As you said, we're in a district that is clearly within an area that's not as saturated. There's some issues going on, and I know with Councilmember Adam, and to kind of clump us all together and throw us into one batch is completely unfair. And we are extremely disappointed because we do feel that we do deserve to have an answer tonight to move forward with business. As you're a businessman, you know this. It hurts business. All of you are business people, and it infringes on business. And some of the comments here tonight, it's just unfounded. It's like having been selling liquor and condoms in the same place doesn't mean that people are immediately going to pop it open and start having sex right there. So let's stop selling condoms. Let's put restrictions on cigarettes, which has a higher propensity for younger people underage to get a hold of. That's not what we're doing. We're wanting to add a convenience and a service and, to the community in itself. And I think it's harmful, and I think it sets a precedent here not to make, there's a duplicitous action happening here. You have a commission that's elected by the people, for the people, of the people, and yet what happens is at the 9th hour at 6:01 p.m. on the deadline date, you have the mayor that says, nope, okay, I'm going to put in and we're going to go ahead and forward this over. So it does impede business. It hurts businesses. And it doesn't exactly attract more business or if it's that difficult to go through the process. And not to be argumentative or not to throw things that are negative in this, all we're asking for is a fair chance, a fair opportunity to be competitive with others that have been given that chance and that opportunity, and to continually have to go through, and I know that we're within the same amount of time frame or legally that we're able to do it, but we've had so much time since May for any negative comments to be brought up, any of this stuff to be answered, any CUP issues to have been brought to the plate. So it is unfair. So what is it? May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, 7 months later? Now we're coming to the table and saying, I think we should probably retroactively place them under this thing that we're dealing with the 99-cent store that we've been for months dealing with in an oversaturated area. And now what we're going to do is create a bigger burden and place them under a CUP. You know, and it's very interesting. As a licensed general contractor, I've had to deal with a lot of cities. What we do is we do dedications of right-of-ways. Why can't we do a dedication to the 14% in writing and be able to submit that? Can't we submit a document to that statement? Because we're not wanting to go over the 14%, which, you know, if you're going through ABC, you're allowed up to 20% of the total square footage, and we're not doing that. And we're not wanting to do that. So is it legal? Is it a possibility that if we put forward in writing a dedication to the 14% and stipulating that the location of the alcohol won't change, can we move forward with this tonight?
And I'll ask that question, so it's coming from me, so that you can answer that. So,
to respond to the question from the applicant, it's really the same answer that I provided and that Ms. Ackerman provided before. We can include that in any letter that we forward to the ABC, saying that the council's determination of public convenience and necessity, or public convenience or necessity, was predicated on the commitment from the applicant to stick to the 14% and not to sell single-serving containers.
And just to be clear, because I've been through these a few times and so I feel like I've got a decent understanding of it, but just to be clear, whether we approve, deny, or do nothing, ABC could reverse any decision we make. So they're the ultimate deciding authority, although there's probably some precedent that's been set, so to speak. Not that they have to follow it themselves, but they've set a certain pattern of behavior where if we approve it, then there's a high likelihood they will. If we deny it, there's a high likelihood they will.
The Business and Professions Code provides the ABC can seek direction through these kinds of permits from the City Council, and that it also allows the ABC to go ahead and move forward on a license in the event that the Council decides not to decide. So, yes, the ultimate issuer of the license is the ABC, regardless of whatever PNC determination is made here tonight. However, it is my understanding in anything that I've ever worked at that it usually runs pretty closely to whatever the determination is from the City Council, or whatever other body of the city is charged with making those determinations.
Okay, great. And just to respond to a few comments, I don't want you to feel in any way like I'm trying to hold up the process. I understand the timeline that you all have experienced. Just one correction to make. The Planning Commission is not elected by the people. They're appointed by us, just to start with. And so, you know, they're making those determinations, but we have the ability to appeal. If you've followed this issue in town, it's been one, like I mentioned at the beginning of my comments, that there's been a lot of passion. Not that I've had a whole lot of passion over, but there's been a lot of passion over this particular issue. And so it's typically gone to a higher level where it's being discussed and determined by the City Council. And so at the point that I appealed, there was the opportunity for this hearing to occur earlier. It's my understanding that through some sort of discussion we got to this date itself. So, I mean, I never wanted to hold it up. I'm just trying to follow the parameters that
it was
we
right
have
in the
here
middle of
place.
elections. So
I understand, and you know, it's the unfortunate part about this. Now, where we stand right now is there's a motion and a second to continue it. My motion has died at this point, and so.
Can I speak to the motion? And maybe just urge you to get clarification. The motion, as I understood it, was to continue this open-endedly so that there's no date certain for bringing it back. What you may want to consider and consult with Ms. Venacci on is if you want to do that, or if you want to continue it to a date certain till the issues that she's raised can be reported back to the City Council. And in my mind, those issues are whether the ABC would really stay its deliberation. Well, the first question is how long this regulatory process would take to develop and be ready for enactment, because I think you want to know that. In comparison to whether the ABC would really put its deliberations in abeyance until you work this out. I think you'd want to decide that. A related issue is the application of the Permit Streamlining Act to this application. And then, as was raised earlier, the issue about whether new criteria could be applied to this existing application. I don't know the answers to those 4 questions, but if you continued this to a date certain or until the council could have answers to those questions from Ms. Venaccia, you might want to do that. But that's for you to consult with her. I think those 4 questions are important to you, as I've heard you deliberating, and just wanted you to think about, when you'll get the answers to those, and then how that drives the motion.
So I don't know if you want to take in any of what has just been mentioned at the podium. I don't know if you want to add anything. I'm guessing.
Well,
okay.
I was waiting for an opportunity to make an additional comment. Actually, one of the issues that is raised is the ability of the ABC to enforce the types of conditions or its willingness to enforce those types of conditions that the applicant has volunteered at this point. And I'm not sure of the answer to that question, or whether the city would have any ability to enforce those. So we've, as Mr. Smith stated, we've identified at least 4 different areas where you might want some further clarification, legal clarification, which would require some research, and then for a report back to the City Council. So it does seem appropriate to continue this to a date certain to have those questions answered.
Well, I'll maker of the motion
can
in a second here.
Offer
so
a friendly amendment to include the items specified is your summary of our questions, along with I'm going to forget your last name. It's
Venaccia.
Venaccia. I know you by Jacqueline.
That's fine too.
Her additional comment there too.
I'll accept those. And we, as a hearing tonight, came and we had 3 options: to deny, approve, decline to act. And we're not. We actually we want to be in good faith looking into these questions. And so this is not a denial. I think that it's important for you to realize that we really want to work with you. We value our businesses in Lake Forest, and so I'll take that friendly amendment to that, if you could please do that research on that.
Okay, does the council have a date certain that they'd like to continue this to? We're in the holidays right now. The council meets, I understand, twice a month. So we might want to move this to the first meeting in February. Is that, I don't know, it's up to you. I'm throwing ideas out there.
The maker of the motion, could we make it a date certain, no later than the second meeting of February? You guys, because obviously this is, you got to look and see what your time frame is going to be, but can we be no later than the second meeting of February?
I would advise the council to pick a date certain so that we don't have any additional noticing issues that come up.
Second week of February.
But is that the first meeting in February? Is that accurate?
Second meeting of February.
Second meeting. What? February 17th. February 17th, as I understand that date. Then.
Okay. Any further discussion? I'm guessing none from you all. Okay. I just want to make it clear that I feel like I still feel very strongly about the motion that I made, so I will be in opposition, but I'll call for the vote. So. Item passes 2-1. So the continuance passes 2-1 to the another discussion on February 17th. So. And I think I need to close the public hearing.
Yes.
Actually,
And you're continuing the public hearing.
Oh, continuing the public hearing. There we go.
That's
Okay.
what the motion was.
Yep. I'd be lost without you. Okay. We'll just take a brief recess until Councilmember Nick can rejoin us. All right. We'll reconvene, and I think that,
Agenda item 18, public hearing to consider street names for Phase 2 of the Shea Baker Ranch, submitted by Director of Development Services.
I assume we have a really brief staff report.
I will defer to Ms. Ackerman, but I believe you'd be correct, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, it would be very brief if I just note the City Council approved street names for Phase 1 of Baker Ranch approximately 2 years ago, and the municipal code requires City Council to hold a public hearing to name new streets. These will be the street names for Phase 2, and they continue upon the theme that was established with Phase 1.
We have any public comments on the item?
We've had no requests.
Okay, council members?
Move staff's recommendation.
Second.
Well, it's a public hearing, Mayor, if you could open that right before.
I'm getting hung up with these public, I think it was just getting the legislative stuff in the middle of it and kind of threw me off. So I'll open the public hearing, and no public comments, no comments from the council.
I'll move staff's recommendation to close the public hearing.
Well, I'll close the public hearing.
I'll second.
Well, I'll put that in my motion to close it.
Okay.
That's at least what we did on the planning commission.
Yeah. Well,
I think.
Well, it's a new day.
It's getting late.
It's a new council that you're on here, so I apparently I have all the control.
Okay.
So at least for now. So for a few more days, and the rest of the night as far as meetings are concerned. So there's a motion and a second on the item. Seeing no further discussion, council members, cast your votes. Item passed unanimously, and I'll close the public hearing. And that brings us to the city manager's report.
Nothing further this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Gardner.
I have two sets of comments. The first one follows up from Mrs. Rudolph's comments and about bringing that consensus to bring that back. And Mr. Dunnick and I are also talking about some other changes on the website, so I'd like a consensus to bring a bunch of website changes back to the council, including Mrs. Rudolph's.
The website, sure, of course, I second that. I apologize, I did not understand the first type. First. What about Mrs. Rudolph?
It's memorializing the life of loss of officers in Lake Forest.
Oh, yes, I second that too. Sure. Let's agendize it. Thank you.
What was your...
We're not going to have any discussion of the item since we're going to agendize it, but...
Then I have a second set of comments.
Okay.
I didn't understand what you said about the second, the other website changes.
Oh, yeah, I have...
That wasn't part of this, so...
Oh, okay.
That was just the...
Okay. Yes. Can I do my second comment?
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm very disappointed that in our second meeting as a new council, we've already voted to postpone two key decisions. Those of us who choose to spend our time and energies in city government do so with the specific promise of making government work more efficiently and effectively, as many of us have said, almost all of us, and already we're mired down in our first two meetings in postponements and continuances, whether justified or not. Postponements are inherently wasteful of time and resources. More importantly, in the real world where businesses know that time is money, the inability of a government to respond is a problem. And I'm particularly upset that the tree management proposal didn't get back to us tonight. In that case, there were opportunities, windows of opportunity that are being missed because of postponements. It should be our goal as a council to eliminate postponements, not to make them a regular part of our agenda. Bear in mind, these two postponements are not isolated cases. Mayor Robinson, at our last meeting, you talked about the problems with the IT contract, and Councilman Voigt reminded us with the problems with the trash contract. So we're not looking at two specific cases, we're looking at a pattern. Lake Forest is a contract city. The RFP process is an integral part of our ability to function effectively as a contract city. in the pattern of postponements and RFPs that are not responsive strikes at the very core of what we're supposed to be about. If we're to overcome these problems, we need to understand what's happening. Let's review for a moment what happened with the tree management contract. In January 2014, staff recommended changing the process from bid to RFP. 9 months later, on October 7, looking at the two proposals, staff recommends rejecting them because they're too high. They change their minds and recommend returning to the bid process. They issue bid documents to 16 local contractors, and if I understood it correctly, by email. They received 2 bids. Those 2 bids are the 2 bids that they had already from almost 10 months previously. Now the differences between the 2 bids are even greater than they were before. On December 2nd, they bring the bids to us. One company complains that the bid from the winning company is unbalanced and unfair. Council votes 4-1 to continue for 2 weeks, have the staff work with the companies, and come back to the council with apples-to-apples comparisons. Something that should have happened the first time. And again, bear in mind, we're dealing with tree trimming, and it's now December, and that's, you should have been trimming them in November. Worried that the staff will not make the promised commitment to return in 2 weeks, I specifically asked the city manager for his assurances that they'll get back to us in 2 weeks. Confers with the staff. They promise that they'll try to meet the deadline, and despite the promise, the item does not show up December 16th. I'm very disappointed by that. This is a comedy of errors, from the bad decision to change the process and then rechange it, to the inordinate amount of time it took to complete the RFP process, to the fact that the contract was allowed to expire with no new contract in place, to the inability to get a large number of bidders, to the inability to give us apple-to-apple comparisons. It's just not the way to do government properly, to do business properly, effectively. And I know there are specific reasons for many of these shortcomings, but as a council member, I'm interested in the overall process and the outcome. Moreover, I'm concerned, as I said before, that it's not an isolated case, but we've seen it before, as with the IT case, as with the trash, etc., etc. The challenge for us, Mayor Robinson, on the council, is to, 1, face the fact that our RFP bidding process is not working as effectively as we would want it to work, and 2, insist that the staff address these problems and rectify it as soon as possible. Going forward as a council member, I do not want to see contracts with only 2 bidders. We've got to do a better job. We've got to get more bidders. I do not want to see inordinate delays in the process. I just don't want to see these things. And I don't want to see these failures to provide apples-to-apples comparisons. It shouldn't be up to us to say we need apples-to-apples comparisons. We should get apples-to-apples comparison. That shouldn't be our step in the process. That's the staff's step in the process. And finally, missed deadlines. So, these particular things, because we missed the tree trimming, I am upset, and I'm looking forward to not having this conversation in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Hamilton.
I just want to thank the mayor for his dedication and time spent over the last year. Mayor Robinson, you really did an amazing job in 2014. I only worked with you here on the council for, I guess the 2 meetings in the current month, and but I can see your amazing footprint and service you've put forth, and I just want to say a heartfelt thank you. So I would like to see consensus on making commission appointments more applicant-friendly. I think we've had a lot of people apply. I think staff can probably come back with some good options to make it more applicant-friendly, not necessarily like to benefit us or be more timely for staff or for the council. I don't mind, and I think I probably would speak for everyone here that we don't mind taking the time. It's just, I remember being on the last person on a applicant as for the council appointment, and I think it was 5 hours after it started. So just trying to be a little more applicant-friendly there.
I agree.
Second that.
And staff, you can come up with your options and, include the current option too. I think we talked about the League of California Cities, potentially not being a member of that consensus. I'd love to get consensus on that.
I agree. Coming new as you are, I think I need that myself.
Okay, you have consensus.
And then I think we might have mentioned the conditional use process for ABC licenses and PCN policy, seeking consensus.
I support that anxiously, very much. Thank you.
I'm sorry, can you please repeat that one?
It was the conditional use process for ABC licenses and a PCN policy for issuing PCNs.
Yes.
I second that. Please put that on the agenda. Yes.
Wasn't that in the motion anyway?
Yeah, he repeated it from my mind had wandered off.
No, but I thought that was in the motion at the end of the hearing.
I think we had to put it on a consensus for it.
And I'm going to allow you to do you mentioned something about Prop 13.
The city clerk's looking for separate consensus on that, so...
I provided that, sir.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you, sir.
And thank you, everybody. I wish everyone a Merry Christmas. Staff, thank you for your job tonight. My colleagues. And the audience, Merry Christmas.
Does that give the staff enough direction with respect to those?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I believe what we're talking about is adding those items to a future agenda so the council can provide conversation and direction to the staff for further action.
Okay. Councilmember Voights.
I'll echo those kind words that Councilman Andrew Hamilton gave. Dwight, you've done an amazing job for our city. You've led with leadership and patience and wisdom. So I want to thank you for leading our city that we love so much with such demeanor. It means a lot to the direction. Being the figurehead and the amount of work and effort that you've put into this is, you were amazing. You were everywhere. So I want to thank you on behalf of a resident and a fellow council member. So thank you for your commitment to the city.
Thank you.
I'd like to say that Lake Forest Chamber had their holiday parties last week, and at the Wine Artist off of Big Parkway, and what a great hidden oasis that is over there off of Big Parkway, just east of Tribuco. I'm glad that Lake Forest Chamber recognized them, and they finally got involved with the Lake Forest Chamber, because I had been there a few times with the Irvine Chamber coming over to the Wine Artists, but it was nice to be there as a member and as a city of Lake Forest, and so it was a great party. The Chamber's done a great job for us in helping ribbon cutting many of the new businesses, and I want to wish everybody happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and look forward to seeing you in the new year. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Nick.
I do not have prepared notes, just fragmented thoughts, but I'll speak from the heart, so just bear with me. On March 1, 2011, I walked out of this chamber and I swore to rid the city of the 4 individuals who unlawfully affected my business, my way of life, my family. Win or lose in court, and I may very well lose because of the deference to the city. And I knew that from the get-go, I knew that going in. However, win or lose in court, people of Lake Forest and I have already won. Just look at the makeup of the council. It's a 100% change. 100% change from the time I got involved on June 1, 2010. First, Scott Voights, Mr. Voights, pioneered the way. Then Mr. Robinson and I joined the mission and now 2 great additions. As I have said before, and I will go to my grave saying, I am here to a great extent because of the leadership of Dwight Robinson, because of the help he gave me sometimes, not just on a daily basis, on a minute-to-minute. Despite all the adversities, despite everything that the City Hall, the City Council at the time threw my way, I got to be here. I got to make some changes. I shall continue that for the next 2 years, shy of a fatal heart attack on my part. I thank Dwight once again because I know how involved he was with the events that helped further Lake Forest businesses, way of life in Lake Forest in this past year. I think he set a new standard. I think he set a new standard for this role. He has my deepest gratitude, appreciation, and he knows it. The comment that he rendered to the Orange County Register, I have not spoken with him about it. I will not speak with him about it. Maybe sometime in the far future. I just attribute that to his youthful indiscretion, which I believe is something President Reagan said in his presidential debate with, what was that gentleman's name? He passed away a couple of years ago. Benson? No. He said that to, no, I'll look it up later, but President Reagan said that. I think his last name was Benson, in 1988, I think. He said that he attributed that to his youthful indiscretion, and the gentleman was in his 70s. So the comment was funny. In any case, I am grateful to Mr. Robinson more than you can imagine. Equally to Mr. Voights, who in a couple of very hot, uncomfortably hot days, he and I knocked door to door trying to secure me votes. Andrew did precinct walkings for me and Dwight a couple of days that I remember, if not more. And it's been an honor, despite everything that has happened in the last couple of months. It's been an honor. I'm glad I'm here. I will continue to be here. Just, if nothing made sense as to what I just said to anybody who listens to this on the city's website, just compare, and this is the last thing I'm saying, and I know my time is up, just compare how good a dialogue tonight we had among the council members for the PCN to the mobile station. See how intellectual the debate was. See how respectful the individuals debating it were to each other, among each other, to the public, to the applicants, to the appellant, and compare this to what happened and what they put me through on March 1. They ridiculed me. We have already won. We have already won. The people of Lake Forest have already won. Just compare what happened tonight. How professionally adequate, how day and night, what happened tonight here compared to what happened March 1 when I was sitting in the audience. theatrics. I remember a good mentor of mine once told me that win or lose in court, I have helped the city of Lake Forest, the city hall, have a new appreciation for processes, especially when it comes to issuance of letters of public convenience or necessity. Right there, I said to him, then in that case, if I have elevated the conversation, if I have brought forth or if I have forced some education upon the staff and upon co-counsel, then I have already won. People of Lake Forest have already won. With that, I finish my comments. I thank every single one of you. I will not mention you by names. My time has been up for a good minute. I thank my colleagues to my right, to my left. Once again, my utmost gratitude to Mayor Robinson for his leadership in this past year, for all the efforts that I know he put forth, going above and beyond, setting yet a new standard for us to follow. Big shoes to fill. I wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a great Happy New Year for you and your loved ones and all those who call America home. Thank you.
Mayor Robinson.
Councilman Voigt has one more.
We earlier got consensus, and I'd like just to restate that as a separate motion, or consensus is the recognition and support of Proposition 13 resolution. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Mayor Robinson.
Well, it's been a pleasure this year. As I'm not going to go in any further than I did in my initial comments. They were long enough. But it's been a pleasure serving the community as mayor, and look forward to continuing to do so as just a mere council member. I sense a little angst in general about I've heard a little bit about, how certain items have been postponed, certain things seem to be delayed, how do we speed up some processes? And I hope this doesn't come across in the wrong way, but I'm sensing some of the challenge for the staff is understanding what a majority of the council wants them to move forward with. And so sometimes that causes some challenges for them. I can appreciate the direction we went when we decided that we wanted to have 2 members put something on the agenda. I'm also seeing some negatives in that light, where not seeing majority support for something, there's a challenge for the staff to try to figure out whether or not they should put together a really robust report for us, or just put together something they feel 2 members are interested in. So I think sometimes they get a feel for that just based on some facial cues or body language or something like that. But I think that we should agendize that for a discussion, and again, for the sole purpose that we really want to see things speed along. I'm not trying to impede the ability of any of my colleagues to try to get something on the agenda. I think I've been probably one of the most supportive individuals on this council of getting something on the agenda, but I think I just sense a struggle here with trying to understand what the majority wants so that they devote enough staff resources to an agenda item, and then if they don't put enough staff resources toward it because they're not sure whether there's a majority interest in pursuing that particular topic, then the concern could be they have a very basic report that's put together that we could potentially act upon. And I know that that's been a concern of Councilmember Gardner prior to his election, was how those staff reports looked. So just want to have the discussion. I'm not advocating a particular position at this point, but would like to agendize that for a future meeting. And again, so.
I support that, if I may.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, coincidentally, we only need 2 to agendize a discussion. coincidence, irony, whatever it might be. So.
And I just want to say, Mayor Robinson, we have that in a great part, to a great extent, thanks to you, me, and Scott. that it takes only two to agendize things.
Yep. So, but other than that, again, it's been a pleasure this year. Wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year, and we are adjourned. And I'm going to pass the gavel to our new mayor here.